call this meeting to order, the City of Darien Administrative Finance Committee as a whole on Wednesday, February 22nd. Good evening. I am Mary Sullivan, City of Darien Alderperson for Ward 5. I serve as chairperson of the Administrative and Finance Committee. I would like to call to order this meeting with alderpersons of the city, our mayor, city treasurer, city clerk, city administrator, and our director of municipal services present at the city council meeting. We do have two city council alderpersons absent, Joe Kenny, alderman for Ward 5, and Tom Klistick, alderman for Ward 4.
Ward 3.
I'm sorry.
What? I guess Lester 2 is not.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lester Vaughn, Ward 2.
Two.
Here is Lester Vaughn.
He's coming.
He will be present in 20 seconds. So that would mean we will have 5 aldermen present. We will review, discuss, conduct Q&A, and come to a consensus on the fiscal year 24 budget during these committees of a whole. The document all the people here have received is a collaborative effort by the mayor of Darien, the city administrator, Treasurer Corrin, our city staff. I will serve as your facilitator. All these documents have been issued electronically and are available on the City of Darien website. Tonight is a first in a series of meetings with an end goal to have a public hearing on the budget at the City Council meeting on Monday, April 3rd, and to vote and approve the budget that evening. My goal is to complete the review of this budget in 2 meetings and conclude by no later than 9:30 tonight. We will take a few breaks along the way as necessary. The next committee as a whole meeting will be scheduled for next Tuesday, February 28th at 6:30 p.m. in council chambers. The public is welcome to attend these meetings. And then if we need more meetings, it's all the subsequent Tuesdays following. Tonight we will begin with a quick overview of the general fund summary and revenue of department expenditures, starting in order of city council, administrative, community development, municipal services, and capital projects. Ideally, we will get through all of these. If time allows, we will also cover the 2 water funds and the motor fuel tax, the MFT fund. The police department will be covered at our second meeting next week. Many of the items in this year's budgets were discussed in our goal-setting session last fall, and several items are carryovers from our fiscal year 23 budget. These meetings are being televised on our Darien TV channel 7 and also can be viewed on the Darien YouTube channel and can be accessed off the City of Darien website. We will begin shortly. If anyone needs to add anything, Mayor Marquez, do you have anything to add at this time?
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Okay. Treasurer Corrin, do you have anything to add at this time?
May have a comment or two as we move along, but no.
Okay, perfect. We would hope that. And I will then, first off, turn it over to Administrator Vanna, who would like to do an introduction and review some of the items he wants to highlight for this evening.
Thank you, Alderwoman Sullivan. I didn't know how this budget year was going to start out. About 5 minutes after it went out, Mike called me and found a number that was off. So I'm like, oh, this isn't a good start. But he pointed it out, and we do the whole budget on Excel spreadsheet. And the final version, there was an error in a formula. The preliminary versions were fine, and basically it affects the. If you're on the first page of general fund summary, the first column at the bottom, when it has an ending fund balance of $8.649 million, that number should be $8.398 million and some change. But as we go along with the budget, we'll be making changes. I'll be making changes to the numbers based on any discussions, plus as new information comes in, which typically is revenue. So as we go along, we might have another month of revenue. If it's a smaller amount, I don't adjust the numbers. It gets a bit complicated and messy. But if we get a new month of sales tax that's in, we will put some of those numbers in. Just one general comment. It was probably a good timing for anybody that looked at the winter Darien Connections newsletter. It was the winter 22-23. We did a really nice focus on the budget process, the financial transparency. This is really just the start of year-long of financial management and oversight. and everybody works really hard at that, the staff, the elected officials, Treasurer Corn. And again, we have the city budget, we have an annual financial report, we have a treasurer's report, employee compensation is on the website. The residents could see virtually every expense that goes through the city on the city council packet. So obviously the financial transparency here is critical to all of us, and you could find anything out. And again, that was just something I don't know that we've ever really started out with, and I don't know that a lot of people know about that. Secondly, I was just looking a bit in the general fund revenues, which we'll start out shortly. And I just thought it was interesting because if you talk about business development, the business community, and things like that, everybody has their own definition. One of the ways I look at the business community is what are their annual contributions financially to the city. And there's a few other ways, but I do look at that. And the revenues of the general fund that are really on the back of the business owners equates to about 9.7 million in 2022 in the audit. That's about 54% of the city's general fund revenues. I think that's significant, a very strong number, and that does not include things like the utility tax that they contribute to, or telecommunications tax. It's basically the real estate tax that the business community contributes, along with sales tax, local use tax. Last year, it's very, very strong sales tax. You know, we like everybody suffered a little bit during COVID, but it came back very strong. Our restaurant tax, food and beverage tax, and things. So the revenues have continued very strong. As you mentioned, this year's a little different because there are a lot of carryover items we didn't get to because of supply chains or various items. But if I will start out then at the general fund summary overview. The policy and practice for the budget has been to calculate your revenue expenses and determine what surplus there is, and whatever surplus is transferred to the capital projects fund for neighborhood improvements, but we retain approximately 3 months of operating reserve. That typically, it varies every year, but it's about $3.9 million dollars. And this particular year, and as you go over the next 2-year forecast, it stays strong, also allowing us to make transfers to the capital projects fund. The fiscal year 24 is 4.7 million, fiscal year 25 is 1.8 million, and the fiscal year 26 is 2.1 million. And like we did this year, as each fiscal year ends and we get the audited numbers, if that balance increases, we transfer excess into the capital projects fund, again, which is really critical to our neighborhood improvements and a lot of the services we offer. Unless there's questions, or Mike, you have anything on the 3-year? Can really move into the revenues, the general fund revenues. There are a couple of revenues that we will update as we go through, as I mentioned, but real estate tax, we're showing an estimated actual of a little over 2 million, and as Mike reviewed the financials, we actually exceeded that already to about 2.3 million and some change. And below that is the road and bridge tax, that's about 236,000, and we've exceeded that already by 240. So as the first adjustment I mentioned on the fund balance lowered, we already have some revenues that are picking up that that error in the formula. And as we go through, we have it broken up by taxes, license, fees, and other income. And the significant revenue, as I mentioned, is our local sales tax from the business community. Last fiscal year was just a little bit over $7 million, and we're looking this year at about 6.7 million. But again, we don't have a few months yet in of revenue, so that number may adjust up prior to the year end. I really don't have anything specific. I will, as we did mention before, there's not a real estate tax increase in the budget. We were able to maintain the levy as it was last year. And as we know, that does get harder to do every year. But again, we're able to do it this year. And looking out over the next couple of years, I do show that staying level. But what that means is we would have to take an amount to be determined that we would put in the pension fund that comes from other revenues and maybe not the real estate tax. But for now, that has stayed the same.
Can we just say, when can you want us to ask questions?
Well, I don't
on-
have anything, it's probably fine for questions now. I don't have anything unless Mike has any more revenues questions.
Yeah, I had a couple more things, yeah, and that real estate tax, Brian, they lock that, the county locks that at December 31st, so that's a solid number,
Yep.
the 2,302,000. But moving down to the top of the next section, the court fines, we're projecting 249,000. I only had the numbers through the end of January, but it was only at 105,000 through the end of January, so you may just want to take a fresh look at that, because going forward, we're projecting in that same range. But it seems a little bit light so far this year. And then I had one question, the police special service. I know that's where our police go and they'll do like traffic control at different churches or events and everything, and we get reimbursed for that. So this is the reimbursement section of that, if I'm,
Plus the high school, the high school
SRO,
officer,
okay.
yes.
Yeah.
And there is the chief will be talking about a similar position now for the other smaller grade school
Right, yeah.
districts, yes.
I saw that in there. But my question has to do more with, last year we got a new police contract, and there are salary increases in that naturally.
Yeah.
And I know this is just typically a pass-through dollar amount. Have these numbers been adjusted, like for the churches and everything, to factor in the increases in the wages over the course of the years?
I would say yes. We bill the school, and we bill based on hours and things, so that
And current
based
rates.
on current rates. Yeah, there's
Okay.
no reason, unless there was an error, there's no reason to bill at old rates. So, and Julie handles that, and I could double check. But yeah, we bill at the current salaries. Yes.
That's all I had on this page.
Yeah, I just had a couple real quick things. On the building permit fees for under the 2023 estimated actual of 287.
Yeah.
Why is that number so high?
I believe the Sokol project apartment building was significant.
Oh,
Had a
okay.
significant revenue influx.
Okay.
We typically budget, very, very conservative. We don't count on projects coming in unless there's actually been permits issued or we know that something's coming.
Okay.
But that's a large portion of this year's
And
revenue.
then right below that, the telecommunications tax.
Yes.
Looks like, the 24 numbers is down to 232. It was 273 in 2023.
Yep.
It's down.
Yeah, we have been seeing a decline. All communities have, not just us. in our
Okay.
telecommunications tax, maybe over 5 years, probably, Mike, about 5 years or
A lot
so.
of people are getting rid of their landlines.
Yeah.
That's the biggest driver
I
behind
did.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so it's on.
So that's where the decline is coming from.
Okay.
yes.
Brian,
Any-
real quick, what's a replacement tax?
Mike, go ahead. You're
Okay.
good at that.
It's an interesting term. I'll give you a little bit of history, sort of like go off on a tangent a little bit like Dan here. 1969, Illinois did not have a state income tax. They decided to pass a state income tax. And what they did is they said, well, corporations or subchapter S corporations didn't have to pay this income tax. So they said, well, they should be paying something. So let's do it with a replacement tax. Let's charge them something. So they ended up calling it a replacement tax. So that's where the term came about. It basically involves, if you've got a partnership or you're a subchapter S, typically a pass-through entity, they're required to pay 1.5% of their income as this replacement tax, and the state kicks back or refunds part of that money to the municipality. So that's our share of that. That's collected at the state level.
Okay, is there a reason why the last 2 years we've made 18 and we're estimating 7, which is like a 50%?
Yeah, actually, if you look at income tax too, state income tax, that's been very strong over the last couple of years. The stock market was real good through 2020, basically, and then 2021. So people had a lot of capital gains. So I don't know about
So
you, but
we're
personal.
just thinking
So it's, yeah.
Again, conservatively.
Basically coming back down to a normal level. Even this year, I think Brian's wise in the sales tax coming down a little bit, because sales tax ballooned last year in 2021. The government was sending all these payments out to everybody. Everybody was going out and buying all sorts of stuff. So I think that increased the sales tax. The better stock market increased the income tax. These numbers are generated generally through Illinois Municipal League. They do projections, and Brian factors those in as he's calculating those numbers. But that, to me, it makes sense as far as the logic behind the differences in the amounts.
And it's not a big number, but is there a reason why we are estimating the gaming tax to go down from what we're at this year? Just because it seems like it's gone up every year?
Yeah.
That I don't know.
Yeah, the business-related fees are, you see trends and you try to predict and different things. I'm just stay conservative.
Okay.
So I
So-
don't want to
I mean,
always look at what
you
we're
have it down
doing
like
this year.
4%, which isn't a big number, but
Yeah.
I was just curious if there was some reason for it.
And just as a general point, again, I try to stay very conservative on the revenues. And as we finish a budget year and get in the audit, any of the revenues that we're conservative on just creates an additional fund balance to go to capital projects fund.
Yeah. Actually, the logic on that, too, I mean, Chicago's going to be opening up their first casino. I mean, the more of these land-based casinos that you open up, probably the more people are going to be drawn to that instead of going to the corner.
I don't think the people that go to the corner stores are going to be good. are going to be trying to the casino. That's just me, though.
Any other questions, Joanne?
You have on here cannabis use tax, but we don't have any cannabis stores.
We get a
within-
percentage of that from the state.
State calculated
Yeah,
tax.
state.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the general fund revenue budget, which is page 1, 2, and 3? Anything else, Brian?
Not on the revenues at this point, no.
Okay, okay.
So how comfortable you feel with these then? Pretty comfortable that,
Conservatively,
I mean, where you were,
comfortable.
compared to last year, you pretty much the same level of conservatism?
Yeah, I think, well, on a good year, we end up with more revenues than projected and less expenses than
Okay.
projected. But these should be fairly solid,
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
Solid.
okay.
The other thing that's helped a lot, too, interest rates have peaked.
Yes.
Perked up.
Yep.
So, I mean, we were projecting a very low number on that based on what we were getting last year.
Yeah.
Like I told you at the last council meeting, we got a CD now at 4.25% with
Yep.
the funds we have on deposit. We're able to get a lot more dollars than that.
Okay, great. Well, if we're okay, if there's a consensus, we will move on to our page 4, which is the City of Darien City Council budget. Okay?
Yeah, that's, in total, the request is $85,921. Very standard. Has some of the dues and subscriptions for the city, minor public relations like the Heart of Darien Award, small things like the trolley contracts for the Halloween party, holiday bus tour, and we keep that pretty much. It should be about the same as we've been running in that budget.
So rather than trolley contract, it's a bus contract.
Yes, yeah. You had mentioned last year about really a nice trolley. We
Yeah,
looked
I
into
know.
that. but
It got too expensive.
I think
know.
everybody's happy with the bus then. It was.
It was
very,
good.
Very expensive though.
Yeah.
So page 4, City of Darien City Council budget, and then supplemental pages 5 and 6. Any questions on any of those line items? Joanne?
I had a question. I had previously spoken to the mayor about increasing the training and education that I do through the municipal clerks, both through the state of Illinois and DuPage County, but there was no increase because I do pay an awful lot out of my pocket.
Just the history behind that, a while ago, well, we used to budget nothing, and then probably about 7, 8, 9 years ago, it was sort of determined that some people take advantage of this, basically Joanne, other people don't take advantage of it, so it was decided to put $100 per elected official in there that each of us are eligible to take advantage of. So that's where the $1,000 comes from, 100 times the 10 of us. And I think Joanne is probably the only one that's taken advantage of it up to this point.
My personal opinion is that's a bit low. I mean, there
Yeah.
are
seen
a
stuff.
Things
number
are
of
so expensive
seminars,
now,
They are.
too.
The Illinois Municipal
ridiculous.
League, some of the things that are associated with the DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference, we
Yeah.
budget that separate, but that's
Okay.
covered, like the drive down and some of that. But, you know, I don't know that anybody, and I think that's another reason, not so much how we divvied up, but there just wasn't usage. So if it wasn't getting used, eventually that is another reason it came down to that amount.
I think Mary's right, though. I mean, you see so much of it is so expensive that you only have this $100. It won't even pay for one class.
So if one person, I'm not going to name a name, wants to do more than $100 worth, then they're
That's it.
not.
That's it.
Even though there's still a pool of money there that others aren't taking advantage of.
Okay, I have twice now been on a committee for the Municipal Clerks of Illinois, and I'm appointed by the governor, and that takes care of my tuition in the fall. But I'm still responsible for the hotel and food and travel and all the rest of it. That cost this year was $600. But because I'm on the committee, I did not have to pay that $600. But this is my last year. I'll be co-chair this year, and then that's it. So it just some consideration, because I do pay, we have quarterly meetings that we meet throughout the state. My dinners, like I say, I get the $100, and then the rest is out of my pocket. But just for consideration.
But on the other hand, I mean, there's a lot of things that we can individually do. I go to different conferences and that too, and I pay for it myself. I just feel it's just really, I don't expect the city to pay it. Not quite to the, not to the extent you do,
Yeah,
obviously.
but
But I'll go to different update conferences and that and not put it through. So, I
Peanuts.
mean, if you wanted to make a change in it, what I would probably do is not recommend we maybe increase the amount that each individual is eligible for, but not say that one individual is eligible for 100% of the amount allocated. If you wanted to change it that way, maybe make it.
So your recommendation is to still
What?
have a per person allowance?
A maximum per
A
person.
maximum
You can
per
still
person
put in the-
versus a pool of
the
money.
1,000, or if you want to say $200 per person, change it to 2,000 with a maximum of 200 per person,
Yeah,
or whatever
I
you
feel
guys,
more
however
comfortable
you guys
with
want to
that.
talk about it.
I guess, really, to me, the first question is, are any of the elected officials interested in attending either seminars, training? Have you seen things you wanted to go to? If everybody said no, then should just make that zero. But if you have found things you want to do, I think that might have an impact on the discussion.
Well, I know when Eric and I first got appointed, Eric got elected, we used our $100 for like the new training.
Yes.
Obviously, that's not something one needs to repeat, but I think, people should be encouraged to get, continuing education or opportunities.
There's one item we don't budget for that's over the years has been popular. It's the Illinois Municipal League. They have an annual conference.
Yeah.
It's
In
downtown.
September. Yeah, it's in September.
It's downtown,
Right.
and they have, it's probably 3 days of sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I don't know, I don't recall, $300 maybe. Joe, do you recall?
Yeah.
About $300 a person. And that covers a lot of training in 3 days.
Right.
So I think everybody gets that because you get the magazine from Illinois Municipal League.
I mean, I see some stuff that looks good, but then I see the price and it's like, forget, and I just toss it to the side. Because of the cost.
There are a lot of emails that I get that I think you guys get.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
Where there's you get
Yep.
invitations to participate in this or that.
Yeah.
$75 here, $100 there.
Yep.
But the fact of the matter is, nobody seems to be taking advantage of that. And I think IML is probably the most popular thing, but there are a lot of, that come across my desk. Maybe all of you don't get all the ones I get. But there are some that I go to that I pay myself, like Mike and Joanne, and there are others that I go to that are paid for because they're DMMC and I'm president. But do you guys get emails where you can go to a workshop and you decide not to go because of the cost?
I think Eric
Yeah.
just said that.
Yeah.
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 Well, okay.
And I go and I pay out of my pocket, so
Right,
it just
right.
depends on what the group is.
As the mayor mentioned, the Illinois Municipal League is really good. And not only are the sessions usually very valuable, there's a lot of sessions, but you're there with other elected officials from other towns, and there's a benefit to that as you're sitting there listening to somebody talk about budgets, you talk about your different towns. So I think I would recommend if anybody's interested, that's what we should look into.
Yeah.
It's too hard, you
Yeah.
know, I get, and you all get, I get tons of these training sessions. I just delete them right away. There's
Well,
too many. You don't
yeah.
know the
We're
quality.
constantly
Thank you.
being
It's the
approached by,
quality issue.
well, and nothing, it hasn't been vetted. I mean, it, you
hasn't
know,
been
it
vetted,
doesn't, you
yeah.
know that, but you know, if something's got the DMMC or the IMML, like, stamp of approval on it, it's going to be worth your while.
I mean, I get something like the National Council of Mayors. Join us in Seattle for,
Yeah.
well, you know, I'm not going to go to that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how many go to that. I would assume a number do because they have it year after year. I think the IML is going to be meeting in September. It's downtown Chicago. I think it's a great, they have individual leaders giving presentations. For instance, Mayor Grasso did a presentation this last year on the hotel motel tax and how people like communities like Burr Ridge can't utilize that. They can only utilize it in a certain way. So, I mean, those are really informative meetings. So I would urge all of you.
And I think,
to
if
do
I'm not
that.
mistaken, you can do, like, you don't have to do a 3-day, you can do a 1-day fee versus the entire thing. And the beauty of it being Chicago is, you can treat yourself and get a hotel room, but it's very easy to train in or drive in or whatever. Well, does anyone want to propose an increase in this budget per person for this upcoming year?
Mayor, can I just ask, I'm sorry, one more question. Not everybody's a little familiar with the IML conference. Is there anybody that would not want to go, or is there anybody that thinks they would want to go? I could check into that specifically, because I don't recall, the dollar amount. That might have an impact on how, if there's an interest and everybody happens to look at the website, say, well, that is really valuable, that might impact the number.
I know I've seriously considered going the last 2 years, but I had personal conflicts, moving a kid to college, whatever. That was what withheld me. It had nothing to, I thought everything that they were presenting was worth my while, and the fact that it's in Chicago, it was just a scheduling issue for me.
And, if a number of you decided to go this next year, you could carpool, go down together. You can go for 1 day, 2 days, and you don't have to stay in the hotel. You can drive down and park.
Do you want to look into the cost of that? Is that what you're saying, so
Yeah,
we
I'm
could
saying I
factor it
should-
into this?
Well, I would like to know first, if there's anybody not interested in the IML conference. I won't even, then we won't,
Depends
then
on
that,
what's
if there's only
covered.
3 interested, then maybe that number doesn't change. If there's 7 interested, then that might change. I guess it depends on the interest level.
Can I ask a question also? Let's say the dollar amount is 300, just throwing it out there. If I chose not to go to the IML, but I'm going to go with the Municipal Clerks of Illinois, I could use that money at a different conference? I just want to make sure.
We haven't talked
No,
about
but I mean,
Yeah.
This is
just,
part 2 of the
Go
discussion.
where you want to go.
Okay. pardon me?
Should be able to go where you want to go.
Okay.
Should be optional, right? Like,
Yeah,
If there's a conference that better suits your time, Joanne, I would be in favor of that.
absolutely.
I'm not going to go to the clerks conference.
No.
No,
My
No
time wouldn't be
offense,
well
but-
spent there. Or the treasurer's conference.
I think we should increase it to 300. I definitely think, definitely would. I think it needs to help. I think it would be great. So, I mean, it's not like we're blowing out the budget or anything.
Well, it might not even get used. It might only, if we're going to base it on per person,
placeholder.
it might not
It's just a
even,
placeholder.
we still might only spend $1,000. Because only 3 people
You
might
don't
use
have
it.
to spend
Lester
it.
wants to add something.
Yes, Lester.
I was going to say, I actually went to the IML conference, I forget what year, but I think it was 2021. It was a really good conference, met a lot of good people. So I think it's valuable, to attend that.
Oh,
So,
good to know. Thanks.
For reimbursement?
No,
I always say I don't
I
remember seeing
did,
that.
but I didn't.
Yeah, there were, I remember over time that maybe 1 or 2 that have taken advantage of that, but it's a good session. It's up to what the council wants to do. I don't know. Is there anybody not interested that would not, for sure, not go to the IML?
I probably wouldn't, but if I did, I'd pay for it myself anyway, so.
Well, well, Ted gave a number, but I think I should probably look at that.
Okay, so
And
we're
find out
going to
what-
revisit.
Training and education.
We're going to revisit item number 124263. I'll put that on my revisit list.
We'll get the cost of that. It's very easy to get the cost, because they're already advertising it. And it's in your latest booklet, what it costs.
Okay,
It's not on the website yet.
okay.
Pricing.
Very good. Any other discussions besides the one we're going to revisit for the city council budget, pages 4, 5, and 6? Okay, that being said, we'll move on to page 7, administrative department budget. So a little meatier.
You know, one of the things that this reminds me, and we include the salary increases in the steps for non-union personnel as part of the budget. The union contract for the PD is settled. The union contract for Public Works and the PD clerical are underway. We have estimates for that, and we're trying to at least budget, similar for the non-union employees where we think we'll end up. This year, the typical merit has been about $2,800. This year, I've also included in the numbers what I'm calling an equity adjustment. Looking through last year, really, there was a number of employees that pay raises were maybe limited at 2%, and others were more because of union contracts. So I'm trying to get a little catch up for the non-union employees, and all those numbers are built in, and again, follow more of the union contracts.
Any questions for Brian on personnel, salaries, and overtime? Anything on benefits?
Mike, one good point is the IMRF this year. I don't know if you mentioned, it's worth mentioning. I mean,
Yeah, it is. If you notice, and you'll see this in all the categories, the IMRF, Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, the amount has decreased fairly substantially in all cases. I mean, we had been contributing, the worst years, it was up to maybe 17, 18%. Last year, I believe it was maybe 12%, and this year it's dropped to 7%. It's hard to project that going forward because a lot of the amounts that they generate are also like the pension fund, depends what kind of return they're getting on their investments. They're also on a calendar year basis, so they're a lag. So, but for this coming fiscal year, we're at a very favorable rate you'll see across all the salary and benefit categories
Well, that's good news.
for a year. So hold my breath for next year, but I'll take it.
Mary, one comment under liability insurance, just to reiterate, we're part of a municipal pool with about 70 members in Intergovernmental Risk Management Agency, and they...
IRMA, right? That's IRMA
for
is the
yeah.
code?
And they calculate premiums for all the members based on revenue, but they also have an adjustment based on loss history, and they also have a certain amount of our money on their hand in a reserve that's that earns interest better than we can get. So that's been pretty good last couple of years. Our losses have gone down a bit, and we've had a pretty healthy balance in there that we've left there and used our own funds for that.
So we budget 263 per year, but it always seems like it comes in less, correct?
Well, yeah, there's a couple of things in that 263. It's our insurance deductibles. If there's an accident, we have a $2,500 deductible. But part of that is also legal services. But the liability, we budget on where we think we'll go. I'm not predicting that we're going to get another credit for loss history.
Okay.
And then we do have a certain percentage also allocated to the water fund for the liability.
And that's all on page 8 that Brian's referencing, under account 10-4219. Any questions on that? Okay, if you want to look, we'll continue to go down operating costs, if you want to look on page 9. If anyone has any questions on those different account numbers? Anything else you want to highlight, Brian? Under
Not
operating
ma-
costs?
I'm sorry, on page 9.
Page 9, nothing?
No, just we have, a number of discretionary expenses under public relations. We're really happy with Maura, who helps us with all our social media. She does a wonderful job, very talented person, and we're looking to obviously continue her retainer with no increase. We're looking again to continue the newsletter, which I don't know, look to feedback from the aldermen if they get compliments. I think, Mayor, you probably get feedback on the newsletter. And I think the biggest concern is making sure the mail, make sure it gets there through the mail. And we have the special events that I also think were very popular this past year. That's what I'm hearing from at least residents or most of you. So we're looking at what we are saying is 4 special events, but we know 3 like we did last year, and there's a chance that we're trying to partner up maybe on some type of a fall fest. So we're looking to increase that by 1 event.
The Lions Club is considering doing a Oktoberfest, so we would use that 4th concert as part of that Oktoberfest.
I know I was lucky to attend 2 of the 3, excuse me. I was in Ireland for one of them, and I saw so I got to see the first and the last, and I think it grew at a great rate. I think tweaks were made from 1 to 2, and then obviously those carried over to 3 that were very positively received. We were very fortunate with 3 good weather nights, which you can't have any control over that. But I think the timing of it being at the end of the month, obviously most of the communities that surround us do something similar, some of them at an even higher frequency. But I saw so many people pouring in that were walking or biking because it is at Carriage Greens. People can easily access it. I think the parking got improved with the second concert. So, I mean, I have no doubt that the majority of the people that attended this year would definitely come back next year and even more because of word of mouth.
It was interesting. Last night, following the Citizen of the Year honor here, I was across the parking lot, and I had a woman come up to me, and she introduced herself to me. And her first question was, "Are you going to continue the concerts on the green?" And I had to think about what she meant, and I realized she was talking about the Carriage Greens concerts. And I said, "Yeah, we're definitely going to have the 3. We're going to possibly have a 4th." She goes, "Those were wonderful." She says, "I really enjoyed those, so please continue those." I said, "Well, we're going to talk about it in the budget tomorrow night, so I'm sure that we'll continue it." So we had about 600 people for that last concert. I mean, we probably went from 300, 200
Oh, yeah.
to about 600.
Absolutely.
And then we had more vendors there. And I'll tell you, walking around, people would just compliment us on that. We could fix their streets and do their ditches, but give them a free concert and they...
Well, yeah, and that doesn't even count the
love
people that were on the patio. So it was good for business at Carriage Greens. They sold out all their patio tables. They had full reservations. And then I was getting texts from friends that live in Brookeridge Creek down the block from Joe. They were having yard parties.
Yeah.
And they could hear the concerts from there, as well as homes along Carriage Greens Drive. So there were people that took advantage of it that weren't even on the blacktop with us. Right. So, and I think April did a phenomenal job managing the events and doing it on a sliver of a budget. I mean, even when she told me what she negotiated that stage setup for, I was blown away. And it was also an opportunity to incorporate the Darien Arts Council and other groups there. And we did collect canned goods and items for the food pantry. That was so appreciated. So, I mean, it was really like a full circle moment for the community.
Yeah. April has contacts, obviously, through her work as the chamber director, where she was able to get bands for us on a pretty short notice. So, once there's a consensus on this, we do want to book earlier, so we'll probably try to start scheduling that right away and having the contracts with the bands. The contracts are relatively small, under 5,000, so I've been able to sign those. And I can continue that just as long as the council's in agreement that they want to continue the concerts.
Any more questions on the concert, special events, public relations, budget?
What does the 4K REIM after Citizen of the Year mean?
We are estimating 4,000 reimbursement. People are paying for dinners.
So the cost of the event is $8,000? No, it has to be more than. Oh, that's it.
That's what it's been, and we also have.
And we receive income of approximately $4 for it.
Depending on the crowds that go, I mean,
right.
obviously, the more people that go that
Okay.
aren't comped, we'll get a larger reimbursement. But
So just for budget purposes, why would we do it that way? Wouldn't it, or do we show that as income on the income side?
I don't,
We do.
you know, it's a small amount.
Miscellaneous income.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't show it there. It's-
Accounting, in my mind, is sort of goofy. I would just soon show it net, but I've had that argument
that's what I
even
was
with our
thinking.
auditors on a lot of things. and-
Okay. As long as the left half and the right half.
It all balances out. Right?
Any other questions on that area? Okay. So there's a consensus, just, I think, to help Brian and give him an idea moving forward, that everyone here tonight is supportive of the 4 concerts for next year, or this year, this next year's budget. Okay? Great. Moving down the page, any more questions on the accounts after that? Rent, supplies, training, education? So I guess my question is, under training and education, local training for $1,500, is that more geared towards staff then?
Yeah, that's the administrative department, maybe Julie and finance
Right,
seminars.
right, so-
Excluding the community development group.
Got it. Okay.
So if somebody else wanted to take like a computer class or something, they could do that then, Brian?
Yes.
Another staff member?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
We are underutilizing that, I think, also, so we'll have to take a
Right.
look at that.
Okay. Okay. Anything else on page 9? Okay, turn it over to page 10. More items, telephone, utilities, vehicle, all that's still under operating costs? Okay. If there's nothing else, we'll move on to contractual services.
I've got a question on
Yes.
that one, Brian.
Yes, sir.
Bank charges, $8,500.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
never had that in there before.
No, that is something Julie had asked us to do, and it's more of an accounting issue of how we should show that as an expense now. If that's something from the auditor, I'll ask her, have her mention that to you. I think it was a deduction from interest before. Somehow it was calculated in the interest, and now she said we should show it as an expense.
Interesting, yeah, 'cause- okay.
Okay.
And then we're just showing one LRS recycling event.
Yeah,
Hours.
we talked internally and thought it would be nice to offer one event this year, and if we offer 2, we just double the price. It was, I don't have the tonnage reports or the, with me, we have seen that, but
Okay.
obviously very nice service.
So
Yes.
did we spend $19,000 last year on that?
They picked
No,
up
they
the cost.
comped
They
it. They
comped.
ended up,
Okay. I'm trying to remember.
They
we
comped it because of
budgeted-
the startup, some of
Okay.
the hiccups at the startup.
And they bill on a per household basis on this?
Correct.
Okay.
So is that, I guess, is that a set number? Like, say my house said, didn't say I want it.
no, it's.
It's a
the
set
number
rate.
of households that are covered by LRS in
Okay.
the contract, they calculate.
Whether they take advantage of it or not.
Correct, yes.
Got it. Okay. Any other questions on page 10? Nope.
Actually, quick question.
Yes.
Cable room maintenance, what are we doing with that one? Besides trying to,
We perpetually
up.
keep money in that budget. You know,
Now you're making me laugh. All I know is my husband said, I'm going to listen tonight. Will I be able to hear?
is it to keep it going or
We're
what?
trying to update that room, but I will tell you, there's still things in there that need to be done periodically. I don't have any specific plan. This year, we're doing some things. you
Okay.
know, when they come in, you know,
We
the council
don't,
approved some of this that's
we
underway.
don't have our new equipment in here, though.
No, I think we got our last piece fairly recently.
Right.
And Lisa's coordinating with Glenn to come in and actually now install that along with any of the cable room equipment. It's highly likely we won't use that, but it's almost a contingency for some of the equipment.
But
back
the
there.
point is, we're still on track to get updated microphones and everything.
Yeah,
like
that
Okay.
should be,
That's
that
the,
supply chain killed us for a while.
Yeah,
And our consultant took a little extra time, was able to save some money on pricing. He looked at that, but that will be done this year yet.
that's perfect. That's most important, so.
Okay. Any other questions on administrative department budget? Okay. The next, in in order is the police department, which obviously Greg's not here tonight. We will be starting off next week with that. Okay, so then we will move on to community development. I thought should be next. Yeah, community development, which is page 25.
Well, I have a question right away on the first line, Brian. Projecting salaries at 384, budgeted 320. I know we've got the extra half part-time. Is that the half?
Yeah, that was,
part-time?
that is the increased salary for that position.
To the end of the part-time,
Yeah,
right?
I don't recall, Mike, anything other than that.
Okay,
It's a little bit high for that. I'll have to double check
Yeah,
that,
the
though.
reason I raised the question, through February, it's at 266,000. So it seems high what we're projecting for the year. I
Yep.
would understand the increase next year, because that position's just recently been added, but the number seems a little high for this year.
Yeah, I will check that. We run those off of payroll sheets and projections of future payroll, so I will double check that number.
And Mike, you're questioning the estimated actual?
Right.
Okay.
The 384, because we're at 266 through February.
Okay. So right now, I'm looking at page 26 to, go in tandem with page 25, under the various accounts broken down. Does anyone have any more questions from page 26 accounts?
Yeah, I've got one here on this one, too. We've got a new item, business development membership. I'm assuming that's in connection with,
Yeah, Dan could cover that one.
That is some memberships with the business liaison, whether it's going to certain events, ICS, International Council, International Shopping Center Council, for example, down in Navy Pier, and or other subscriptions. Recently, he just joined, and I'm drawing a blank on it. The membership was $150, and I believe it was with Choose to Page. So again, some memberships, as we're putting them all together, we want to have the ability to be able to send him and or Jordan or myself to be able to become a little more active in opportunities with other businesses.
okay, that was a new one. That's why I wanted a little
Yes.
more clarification on that.
Anyone else have questions on that line? Liability insurance? Okay. If not, we will move on to page 27. Starting with, that's the operating continued, maintenance and vehicles, printing and forms. Okay. Economic development. There's 2 new items on that. Is there any discussion with that?
The marketing materials, this is just, is there any concrete plans for this yet, or we're just ballparking it right now?
My thought process on this was, as the business liaison is being out there, to have opportunities, whether it's, I'll refer to them as trinkets. Trinkets, not meaning, magnets, maybe some type of jackets, some type of sweatshirts, hats, something that's a little more recognized with the city of Darien emblem on there. Such as we own a business in the city of Darien, a nice place to live, for example. So again, getting out of the, the regular coffee cups, the mugs, and having a little more promotional items for businesses, and those businesses will be able to wear things, for example, and promote just by marketing, wearing it around neighborhoods, not necessarily in Darien, but outside of Darien. So that was some of the thought process there. We've never really done anything like that, with the exception of passing out the PD, for example, little badges. But that's just short-lived, those magnets. I mean, they're in your home, okay, big deal. So just a little more oomph, and we haven't decided on 100% whether it's going to be shirts, sweatshirts, polo shirts, hats, but just want to put something in there so we have that opportunity.
And wasn't it also to cover the cost of a flyer, one-page information? fact sheet
Promotion,
kind of
yes,
thing,
I'm sorry, promotional flyer, correct.
And the last thing is commercials via radio and websites. Have we looked into the cost of those things? Do we have any idea what?
They're various, depends on how many minutes you're running. For example, WGN And again, this was a couple years ago, I looked into it, and at that time, depending on how many minutes, they would advertise. I'm not sure if any of the council members have heard of those advertising, come to Bolingbrook, come to whatever the town is, and enjoy tax-free day, for example, during school purchasing supplies. So again, just thinking out of the box, something a little bit different. Could it be $5,000? Depends on the amount of runs. Season, I guess, is the other thing that may be more applicable as well.
Well, I listen to WXRT streaming most of the time, and I've heard the Village of Schaumburg on there every time.
Right.
And I just, when it was going on, and obviously they have more like office space and things like that than we certainly do, but I just wondered what it would cost to do something like that. And I think streaming probably is less, because you're only hearing it if you're, I'm not hearing the same commercials as the person listening to the radio is. I'm listening it through my computer, and they're the same ones every time.
Correct, and what's the demographics, what's the target that we're trying to reach? Is it the 30-year-old? Is it the, the seniors? Again, all that comes into play with what the markets are. You may listen to WXRT, somebody may listen to WGN, somebody may listen to, the Loop, for example. So, all those different opportunities will have various costs. But again, whatever we would do, especially if it's over $5,000, it would be coming back to City Council for consideration. If there's some miscellaneous, we would definitely advise and inform the City Council, hey, we're going to be running this commercial for $1,000. Give us your feedback. This is when it's supposed to play. So some of this is, we're entering some of this new territory that we really haven't, explored before. And I can't compare us to Schaumburg. Schaumburg, for example, is obviously a lot more diverse than the city of Darien. So what are we targeting? Are we targeting the retailers? When I say retailers, is it Home Depot, for example, or is it the mom and pop businesses? So again, all of that is, a little bit of a new avenue for all of us.
Tom, are you hearing those gearing towards like tourism? Do you recall from
Schaumburg?
Is it
No,
either a restaurant?
it's leave Chicago, come to Schaumburg, and bring your business here.
Right, yeah.
For business, to bring business here.
Bring business.
Okay.
That's all it is. I think they have the mayor and someone talking to the mayor.
Okay, got
And it's like
Wow.
him saying, we brought in this business, this was, and then, the person says, oh, well, you're going to have mine now. And that's kind of how it
Okay.
goes.
And that's somewhat the goal, what's our demographics all about?
Right.
Who wants to be here, When I say who wants to be here, those demographics are based on who is the city of Darien.
It's all the above, right? It's
Right, I mean,
we
is
got
it
a
yeah.
conglomeration of layers of demographics. So,
Correct,
so
correct.
it could be. It's pretty broad.
Whether service or retail or really that's the two major or office even. So you got three categories really that you're looking to fulfill.
But you're looking at it from a business angle, not a residential angle.
Correct. The residential is the demographics. The business is what we'll be looking to draw on that commercial.
I think it's a pretty good idea, but even like on the marketing material, why don't we like focus on, you mentioned mugs and so forth. Why don't we put something together that highlights the Darien Chamber or like Lou's position where they can contact him or a direct line or something, even on a coffee mug. This way, hey, drop it on off. If I want to get a hold of a question, I'm going to call Lou. Here's my number. You know what I mean? Something that highlights, trying to tie in, the chamber with it. So.
And already said, I think we've already started to accomplish that.
Okay.
By the site visits. The goal is to have Lou out there on an annual basis or the business liaison on an annual basis. Here I am. What's the concerns? Lou has, for example, has brought in some concerns to me, minor, major, whatever it is. He's brought some concerns in on feedback.
Right.
While all the feedback has been very positive, to your point, the cards are being, he's giving them out cards. We're giving them a survey. And this is where that promotional flyer will also have that opportunity for additional marketing, information. Here's City of Darien. This is who we are. Here's how to get a hold of A, B, or C.
Right. No, I get you. I'm just, anything to highlight the city and the chamber more,
Correct.
a little bit helps.
You know, the interesting thing is Lou has it broken down by wards, and he's seeing all the businesses in the individual wards. Right now, he's working on your ward, Ted. The information that he brings back, I know he shares it with Jordan, he shares it with Dan, and every so often I'll sit and talk to him and I'll hear something that's going on. He's finding out about business, like the idea that Uncle Mao's closing because he's retiring. That was through Lou. The fact that Sylvia's is going to be closing, that was through Lou. He's got there's an insurance agency company that runs, that has 17,000 square feet of office space over there behind Q-Bar. He wants to go from 17,000 square feet down to 10,000 square feet. Lou made that connection with this guy, so Lou is trying to set him up. The guy who owns Fry the Coop, Lou set him up with Josh at Miskatonic so that Miskatonic could now sell their beer at Fry the Coop. The guy who owns the 17,000 square feet, who wants to go to 10, called Lou, and Lou he said, I may be interested in buying that shopping center for $4.9 million over there next to Jewel. And who do I contact? And Lou set him up to meet with Joan Wayman, who is handling that listing. So his being out there is producing a lot of this information that we normally wouldn't have had.
Well, he's helping connect a lot of dots that would normally
he's
be.
connecting a lot of, and he's out there all the time. I mean, he's eventually going to move. Eric's ward Eric's got 102 businesses in his ward. He's got it broken down, and he comes back and makes notes, puts things in a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
He probably shares all that with you, Dan. He told me yesterday, he says when he gets to a certain point, he wants to come to a city council and give a report to all of you in terms of, what he really feels is he wants to talk to each alderman and say, Lester, in your ward, this is what's happening in your ward. You should know this. Ted, this is what you should know in your ward, Mary, et cetera. So I'm not giving a justification for his position. I'm just saying he's making a lot of contacts out there and bringing in a lot of useful information.
I think your point is he's already making a difference, and he just got started. I would like to say, though, I know you're talking about like a one-pager or maybe a two-sided thing. I think it'd be great to make sure it's got, whether some of the money that's allocated from this budget potentially would go to, having more, or having it have a professional marketing flair to it so that it is consistent with the other things we're producing, like the newsletter and anything we produce electronically, so that it's got that same quality.
Yeah, that's exactly it. This would not be completed by staff. It would be outside, an outside agency, whether it's Direct Connect personnel, but yeah, somebody that's in their professional marketing, targeting certain aspects or goals.
Great. Lester, it looked like you had something to say. No? Okay.
As far as this goes, I'm in favor of it. I just wanted to ask those questions, and basically because we're taking a leap of faith in that we're paying for the chamber and we're hiring Lou, and it is on a quote unquote 1 year or year to year basis. I think it would be tying his hands behind his back if we didn't provide these type of services. So I think it's important that we do it at least for this year, and we'll know more next year.
You mentioned year to year, just to clarify, year to year for the chamber issue. The intention is for Lou not year to year,
right,
just so
right,
everybody's
right.
okay.
Yeah.
I can see this budget going a little higher on the marketing side, though.
And you might be correct. For the first year, I want to be somewhat conservative to see what our goals really were going to be. Plus, to get the program started, it's going to take 3-4 months. So really, we'll only be functioning on a spending of maybe 6 months versus a full year. But again, I want to be a little bit conservative and not, ask for $100,000 per se.
That's Dan talking? No.
Oh, my goodness.
Wait, I've got something else coming up. So.
Yeah, he's saving himself, okay?
That's true.
Okay, if we're not, more questions on that, under economic development, we'll move on to the rest of page 27. Are there any more questions on any of the other items on page 27? Get to the lower end of the page, it's under contractual services. Are there any questions there? We do have a new item, code enforcement software.
Correct, and I can summarize that. Our code enforcement record keeping is probably antiquated at best. You know, we don't have a form or a format that is out there that's user-friendly. When I say user-friendly, we've gotten a little more proactive on code enforcement within the last couple of years, and
Actually, a lot more, Dan, really, yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
You're right, a lot more. And with that said, we've also hired, Karen Byrne, who is hired as a consultant. One of the things that I'm finding is that the reports, for example, are somewhat cumbersome to be able to go through. They're almost in a Word format. And let's say we're looking for a property, XYZ address. Well, it's not as simple as just punching in XYZ. It's a matter of, all right, did we go to court or trying to find the address? Do we find it by address? Do we find it by name? Do we find it by property identification number? So what this software will do is kind of have a uniform look to it where staff and elected officials have the opportunity to go in there and say, okay, who is this? The constituents will sometimes call the elected officials, and they'll be able at their fingertips to be able to look at this and say, oh yeah, okay, let me get staff working on this. We had a previous issue prior to. So that's kind of summarizing it in 5 seconds here.
So is this software going to allow an individual or for the city to say, this property has had problems in 2012, 2015, instead
History,
of
yes.
relying on memory and
Papers.
and
Correct.
paper. So, all right. So every time, even if there's a code enforcement problem, even if it's immediately rectified, we'll have a record of it.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
But we're not going to be
Ongoing
going back historically. This is going to be going forward. I would
Right.
assume.
So, to start entering things historically, I think we know, well, I'll leave it at that.
Well, I think if you have an address now and then you figure out there was some other things you could add it to
Correct.
those particular problem properties.
Correct.
They're habitual violators.
Right. Right.
Well, there's a lot of them.
Dan,
Yeah,
do you know if the software, if you can import, like Excel documents that you've already created into the software,
I know,
like ad hoc?
yeah, there were certain things you could export, but with the format that we currently have it in, may or may not have the ability to, I'll call it, format properly, if you want to say.
Microsoft Access, right? That's what you guys
Correct.
use now. Yeah.
Some of it is Access, some of it is Word, some of it was in an Excel format.
Typewritten pages.
Dan, what Karen has, I don't even know what that is.
That's a
really.
whole,
I
yeah,
don't know
really,
if that's,
it's basically Word or Access at best.
So okay, yeah, it's hard. On her monthly invoice, we'll get a list of the properties. But as Dan is saying, if somebody has a question on a property, now we pretty much, unless we know offhand, we got to call, right, Karen, and find out an update on something.
We have to call and try to search the history, and that also becomes cumbersome, trying to search a history. Are you searching it by, again, address, name, has that resident moved? Has it gone into foreclosure? Is a bank owner now? So there's all these different scenarios.
So this would be software that the city would have like ownership of or leasing or, I guess membership in. But Karen would have access to use it because she's a
Correct.
contractor.
Correct, there will be certain.
But like then if Jordan wanted to look something up or you wanted to look something up, you'd be able to.
Correct, there will be
Okay.
certain administrative features
Access,
that
yeah.
would have access to it.
Dan, would this be something that Karen would utilize in the car as she's driving around?
Yes.
Okay.
Dan, would this also keep track of the liens that we would have against properties for violations?
I haven't really looked at that, but again, it's something we could probably look at, yes. Add liens in there. Yeah, because the liens would be going against the property, and again, typically a lien is not settled until the property is sold, and it's the county's responsibility, well, it's the seller's responsibility.
Well, there are times when they do pay the liens, though, because we do some
Right.
billing prior to.
Right,
Correct, okay.
and again, I think that's really hasn't been a problem, but, I mean, it's still a good point.
Joanne, do we know how much we have in total liens out there? Or does the
Maria
county-
has a file
So
upstairs.
we have a ballpark for that.
Well, we keep a file that just has the liens in there, unpaid liens.
Paper file, probably. We just put them in there somehow.
She might have it scanned, I don't know.
Okay.
Any other questions on page 27? Page 28, contractual services continued. And capital purchases, which is nothing.
Chairwoman Sullivan?
Yes.
If I could present one more item,
Yes.
it's on, thank you.
Is it not on here?
No, it's not currently
Okay.
on here. I know City Administrator Vanna and myself have been in discussion with this. There's one more program that we're currently looking at. That program would integrate several things. And right now, we're looking at a program called open.gov, and maybe Alderman Vaughn can also, chime in here if I'm inaccurate in a couple things. What we've been looking at is having the opportunity with the business liaison and with the clerk's office. Let me kind of run through a scenario. Currently, the clerk's office sends out business licenses. Those business licenses are two different types, for retail and for office, such as professional, which are called compliance licenses. Once the licenses are sent out by the clerk's office, there is a time frame when they have a month or whatever it is, Joanne, you could help me out on this, that they should return their application along with their fees. The concern is that not all the time do we know who has not submitted or resubmitted or reapplied for their license. In some cases, the businesses have moved out and we have no record. Joanne, I'm sorry, you want to say something?
Well, I was just thinking, though, sometimes it's the management of the building that doesn't advise the new people coming in that they need the license if somebody goes out, too.
Correct, same point.
Yeah.
Same point. Whether the business moves out, the management, the owners of the building don't inform the city. There's been some cases where we've had businesses that came in and never had a business license. So the goal here was to take this new software, and again, the cost on it is approximately $45,000. It's a hefty item, and this is where I'll let Alderman Vaughn chime in at the opportunity. So the goal would be to take the licensing with the business liaison, Lou in this case, as he's out there going to these businesses, that we would update this information on this software. That information would be name of business, owner, and even a website. So that website now becomes integrated with the Chamber of Commerce. Whether the City of Darien is sponsoring the Chamber of Commerce, all of these Darien businesses would be in that, I'll call it plumbing, in a certain whatever sector they're in. So just to digress here for a minute, let's say that you're Darien residents looking for a plumber. They're going to go to the website and say plumber. The Darien, let's say Darien has 4 plumbers in town. Those plumbers will now come up through the software along with their dedicated website, and those residents will be able to reach out to that service as well as others. So this is what that software is also to integrate with the business licenses. In conjunction with that, we would also have zoning issues, building permits that would also be integrated into this software, which would be a one-stop shop is what it boils down to. So bottom line is that, yes, we're looking at about $45,000, and we're looking at efficiency and optimization, if you want to say. And I think I've summed it up there. I know I've been in contact with Alderman Vaughn since he's in the industry.
You did a great job.
One question, Dan, the 45, that's the initiation to buy the software?
Correct.
And there's probably some annual.
There's licensing,
much less,
right.
yeah.
And I don't have all the numbers. We just got through with the last Zoom call today. I was not on that Zoom call. I had another one. and they did not give us the final pricing and structure, but I wanted a consideration. I know it's a little late in the game, and we've been working on this for the last probably month and a half. Trying to get some numbers and trying to find something has probably been a little bit longer. But nonetheless, I wanted to have some consideration. I believe Alderman Vaughn wanted to say something.
No, I was just going to say you did a great job. And looking at this software, it helps to automate the workflow, right? It helps municipal services. It helps you guys internally. So it kind of like centralizes all the documents. It centralizes the communication. It improves, like he said, efficiency. And, I think that's helpful when you're trying to run a government versus trying to keep track of Excel documents, Word documents. This kind of centralizes all of those documents in one location, and you can customize the experience too. For when you have liens on properties, you can have a section for that where you can go in and look at those liens on properties. And so it just centralizes this data and creates an automated workflow for everyone. When the guys are out in the field and they want to communicate, something back to Dan, instead of calling him, they can add the notes and Dan can see those notes right away. So it just provides a layer of just efficiency across the board for the city.
Notes on what? Like, I'm a little confused.
Well,
building
if they're out in the
inspections.
field and inspections, zoning, if there's certain things that you guys are communicating that need to be communicated to everyone
For a specific
Yeah.
property, Dan?
for a specific property or specific,
Use or, it'd be related to
yeah,
properties.
zoning, whatever it is. It'll be a centralized location for all you guys to be able to see it. Versus, hey, can you send me that document? And you have to wait for that. But I think it'll be a great tool to help automate that process.
I have a question. Who would be doing the input on this? Because if you have 30 people doing the input, somebody might think, something's not important, but it is to him over there or she over there.
I think it's a two-part. I think the clerk's office would still maintain the record, so obviously they're sending out the invoices. So that access would be, through the clerk's office in conjunction with the business liaison, having that crossover, if you want to say.
Okay, I have another question, though. And I know she's staff, but have you spoken with Maria as far as the program that she actually set that up in Access
Yes,
for her to work with Lou on that, maybe?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And I think that was part of your concern.
correct.
It's hard, Access is not a good way. It's okay to get a list of businesses. It's not very interactive, I don't believe.
No.
And it's hard because you want to make sure you're collecting business license. And that if Maria's checking every list manually all the time, that becomes probably I would think pretty difficult.
She has a way where she can search, just put the name in or whatever. she's,
Well, there's human error factors in there, and it's not a double check and balances, whereas this also gives us the opportunity to list, and we don't have that ability right now, is to be able to put these businesses on the website where people can, click in.
Well, I know that was one thing I noticed when we were doing website review, was like pulling up information. Like if I'm just, Sam Smith down the street and I am looking for a plumber or a roofer that's a Darien business, that's a licensed Darien business, there's like no really search function. And then sometimes when you even maybe do find a business, there's not a lot of information there. Like most businesses right now have some type of like website, or even if their only means of electronically informing their businesses on Facebook, you can access it. And some of them don't even, like, all they have is like maybe a phone number. So to have a consistent search tool on the website for the city of Darien that everyone could access, I think would be a huge factor.
Dan, will it make it easy? We talked about the availability of our forms that we have on our website. We had MuniWeb change the application for, city commissions, where it comes up now. It's a form that you fill out online. When you hit submit, I get it right away. Mm-hmm. We talked about facilitating the same thing with our
Business license.
Our business licenses or our applications for a permit, to where it's all electronic. Would this be these things go out electronically, or are we still mailing out business their license applications?
I think what we need to take a look at is the actual credit card. So many businesses want to pay by credit cards versus a check. So what you're asking is, if we send it out electronically, The answer is yes. Do we take payments electronically? The answer is no. So whether or not this software, and I don't know that answer to that question, whether or not this software has the ability to do electronic payments or electronic transfers, and is there a fee involved? So again, I didn't get that far into the research, but that's, something that I think we need to consider sooner than later, because we don't have that service currently.
But Dan, are you saying it's, because again, we're mailing things, we're mailing the business license application, we're either getting it hand delivered, mailed back, then we're mailing out a business license. Will this eliminate that so a business could just say, oh, it's business renewal, go online, fill out everything and pay online, so Maria doesn't have to mail out
That's
400?
a very distinct, that's what I have to find out.
That's
I
what you're
don't-
checking
right.
on, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't broach that question
Yes, okay.
with the software.
I knew the
but-
payment, I didn't know if it was the fillable for the businesses. And as you and I talked about this, obviously, there's good aspects of this. The price I felt was a bit high, and I think that the aspects of all the business things are very good. I don't know yet or understand the applicability that you mentioned on somebody's had a property, so they'll be able
Well-
to put it in. I don't know how much of that we get,
Okay.
and I don't know if what you're looking at, Dan, if that's 45,000 for all the modules to take care of everything you're talking about, or if there's out of this maybe 20,000 are business related modules.
Right, and that's why my goal right now was to at least earmark it and be able to come back to the city council. We have another Zoom meeting it's early next week. So at that point, I'll have the cost. At that point, I'll have all the, I'll call it bullet points of what I've just explained, and kind of put it in a, somewhat of a memo fashion for council to review.
Well, just looking at some of the features online, I wasn't part of the demo, so I don't know what the experience is like, but it does say you can collect fees online, so there is potential, to collect the fees online.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
That's a big thing.
and it expedites the approval process, so it's kind of, and yeah, so I say this, if you had to build something like this, it'll cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, but this could be, used over the years and years and pay for itself, so.
Staff appreciates all the help that you've given us too.
You're welcome, yeah.
I'd like to make one comment. With the business license renewal forms, Maria prints out what they have sent the year before. They're asked just to make changes on that form. I know it's doing it in pen and paper. And if there are no changes, they just need to sign and submit their check. If they're going online and they have to fill out the application in its entirety again, that might be a little bit more difficult for the business.
I think that's a
This would be
technical
made to
issue.
be simpler, not harder.
Yeah,
Can't we enter it in form?
Yes.
I think that's a technical issue that we would probably have some type of format that we would put all that information in there prior to. I mean,
When you get last
Just
year's
have them review
application.
it.
Right.
Like a merge,
yeah,
Well,
it
yeah,
goes
or
the
even
same,
like
click
it's
the
already
button.
populated. If they're a current business, even like when you go to check in online now with like a My Chart for your doctors, you're not re-entering. You're just confirming that your insurance hasn't changed, your address hasn't changed, your birth date.
but the information has to be put in first before you can
It has to be
confirm.
populated, right?
Yeah.
And Dan, really, what you're at, because this is still taking some more research. You're asking to allocate X amount of dollars.
Just to
And obviously,
earmark-
because it's over 5,000, even if you don't have the research done prior to the budget adoption, it still has to come back to the council
Correct.
for a real good look at this.
correct. Like I said, we've probably been working on it really, in reality, 3 months or so, and, we finally reached out to Alderman Vaughn because we're all over the place, and we looked at several different applications.
Besides the mailing cost, potentially, are there any other ways of getting your money back on this investment? I mean, is there, in paying fines or in have the fines that you've let
Well-
not collected on because we're not good at collecting on? Is this going to speed up the process, but is it going to give it some actual dollar value on these things?
Well, one of the goals that I had was, for example, let's say repetitive offenses on property maintenance code, that Karen has the ability, our consultant has the ability to go out there and second time around, issue a ticket. That ticket now pending adjudication, if we don't bring that adjudication in the house, that's 100% revenue. I should say revenue, 100%, no cost to the city, with the exception of the judge that's, prevailing at the adjudication. And obviously, I don't have a figure of how much that would be, but that would.
Understood. You're saying the efficiency will allow us to do a better job of collecting these type of things.
Yes.
Tom, you're talking about the first software, the $10,000 software that Karen, or you're talking about the second?
I'm talking about the second one.
Correct.
You're talking about Karen.
Well, I'm
not
talking
sure
about
if
Karen,
you're-
but both of, all those costs are revenue, and even the zoning, if there's zoning violations.
But specifically the second one, I understand.
Right.
With Karen, I don't know that you're, maybe Tommy's answering you, but I don't know that you've.
No,
answered-
I'm talking about the
The
$45,000
software, yeah,
software.
the
now.
45,000,
I'm
is there
trying
a
to figure out where we get a return on our investment. Obviously, efficiency is something because it's someone spending an hour
It's
or
efficiency,
5 minutes
right.
instead of an hour is cost savings. But is there an actual? There would be some cost savings for mailings, where the mail might go down, but that's nominal again in the grand scheme
Yeah,
of things.
yeah.
But are there things that this would catch that we're not catching now, like
business,
not paying permits or not paying fines or things like that? Is there some
business licenses, for example?
licenses
That's,
that
whether
have
they're,
slipped through our hands because we're not automated?
well, right, and it really boils down to optimization and efficiency at best, and then those two things equal, well, how much input time does an employee have to spend, searching or researching at that
absolutely.
point? So that's the ROI. There is no,
But it's not a
your
cost
point,
you
Tom,
can.
It's intangible.
Intangible,
Basically,
exactly,
it's basically
Tom, to
intangible.
your point, we've had, as Dan mentioned, we might get a phone call or something that we didn't know a business was in town. That's how we catch them. I don't think this software is going to help us if somebody goes in and doesn't tell us.
Okay.
but with Lou, on an annual
That will
basis, to be able to go back to all these addresses, now we have the opportunity to catch that.
Lou's found a couple businesses, but he's visited, that didn't have business licenses. That are
Correct.
existing in Darien, but don't have business license.
Well, years ago, some history there, we had 2 inspectors that were full-time employees, and one of the inspectors, way back in the day, would go to the different businesses looking for 2 things, to make sure they had business licenses and also to count how many vending machines they had, because there was a fee for those, because sometimes they didn't update their records. But that's history, so.
It's obviously spending a lot of money on an employee to drive around on something. This is
For
much.
$50,000, that would pay the software, for example, so.
So just so we know, can we put this on the revisit when he comes back with more, or you're asking us to put a placeholder
Dan's
amount in?
asking to allocate money in this budget this year and that he would come back when his research is done.
Correct, because either way, it's gonna come back to city council, and by all means, if I feel and the department feels that the program is a little bit premature, or we need to do additional research, I'm not gonna come back to the committee and/or city council to present something that is not solid and, intuitive.
Do you think you'll have more information within the time of between now and next week, or you think you need more time than that?
I definitely need more time. I mean, I'll have some bullet points of
Okay.
just to capture what we've spoken of, but to actually have full details, no.
Dan, you said 3 more months. It would probably take
Correct.
a good 3 months to really
Yes.
feel
That-
confident to
that
come
went
back
over my
with
head.
something.
Okay.
that
We need to do
council-
examples,
yeah.
we want to do a run-through, if
Okay.
this, then that, then what?
So your request is $45,000.
Correct.
Well, there's also going to be
Additional fees.
other fees.
45,000
Annual.
at this time. The annual reoccurring costs, I need to find those out. Those those will be licensing, and what that licensing is on a reoccurring cost, maybe 15,000. I'm just throwing that number out there, it may be less. I need to confirm that.
Lester, is this something we could go online and look at in terms of the program?
Yeah, you can look at the website, but you probably can't do any demos. They'll have to give you a live demo of it. But yeah, you can look online, opengov.com. So, yeah, and it's built
opengov.com.
specifically for government. So,
And Dan, the software that we're talking about for property maintenance and Karen, we have 10,000 and we've allocated 10,000 over the 3 years. is the 10,000 the initial purchase, and then the annual maintenance is less than that?
Yeah, the annual maintenance is very economical for this program, so
So
it's
really,
de
with-
minimis, yeah.
So the years 2 and 3 of this budget, we should reduce, because it won't be 10,000
No,
each year?
no.
All right, yeah, just let me know and we can reduce
Yeah,
that.
I
then.
want to say it was, man, I'm not
let
gonna
me
guess,
know.
yeah, I'll double check that.
I'm just making a
Are
note.
there any other companies that do this?
We've researched several of them, gone online with the promotions, whatever you want to call them. This was the best company that had the best software of what the city of Darien would need.
Are there any other municipalities that you
That's
know
my
of that
next
are using
question,
it?
yeah.
Yes.
Which ones?
I don't have, I know that OpenGov, there's several, I'd have to get the list.
Looks like Blooming. I mean, there's a ton of
Yeah, there were,
states that are using this software. You can go online and see under
States or
case
cities?
cities. Sorry,
they were on their
Bloomington,
website.
Illinois, for one.
Dan, would we get rid of what we have now for Marion permits, the gov, I don't even know.
Yeah, the other one, Gov, Q and, it's Gov Q and A. They've gone to a different
But
direction.
that might
go
be a
away.
reduction if you get this.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So this could potentially replace some things that are another expense for us right now.
Yes, what I don't want to do is overhaul the entire community development department per se and throw everything into the mix. So that other, I'll call it a module, maybe something that we may implement next year.
And it's
Or-
far less than 45. If we were to get rid of that, Dan, maybe it's 5,000 reduction.
Correct.
It's not an equal reduction.
No,
But the master plan, the ultimate goal would be to have everything connected and streamlined
Right.
in a period of time.
yeah, and one example would be Sokol. Let's just do that since that's the most recent. So Sokol would have the zoning case on there, the variations, and then go into the building permit for inspections, so on and so forth.
Because right
That's
now, that would not all be on one platform.
correct.
Would this be able to track like any payments that are due to the city of Darien?
Business licenses, potentially building permit fees. But, building permit fees, I'm probably less concerned about because those are paid up front.
Okay.
And also, we take a deposit on consultants that we believe we'll use throughout a project.
The reason I ask is we had an issue, what was it, about 3 or 4 years ago with cell towers and somebody forgot to pay and we caught them. Is there
Yeah.
a possibility that we could track that?
That's a great idea. Put all the cell towers on there and the reoccurring costs and contracts. So yeah, that's probably something very simple.
Some of that we do different now, Ted, because back then we weren't necessarily invoicing everybody.
Right.
So now all those cell towers, as an example, they're invoiced every month or quarter, whatever their contract says, and it becomes a receivable on our financial software.
Right.
So we still have that working for some of those things. And as you know, a lot of payments we get are central from the state.
Correct.
So some of the things we collect, like the food and beverage, that changes every month. So we don't know what that is, and we do rely on the businesses to come in, bring their form each time with their monthly revenue. So I don't know to what application
Yeah,
that would.
that's a whole different application, and that was not looked at, for sure not. I'm not saying that it can't, but it was definitely not even a thought process of.
No, I think it's a good idea, but I'm just thinking that there's just so many things that, so much receivables that we have in the city from whatever it may be, that there's got to be software out there like this to track it and just track it a little bit better or a little bit more timely. That's all.
Well, Mike, you kind of know what our receivable, we used to get more of that report. I don't know what that covers enough. It's still a matter of, it's only on there what we bill.
Yeah, and I don't know how this is going to capture all those things. I mean,
Yeah.
these things are going to be captured. You still have a lot of manual labor, whether it's Maria inputting, Lou going out and
Yeah.
saying, hey, this business isn't on there. You still have a lot of different people's hands in there. That's why I'm more curious. Lester's saying that Bolingbrook uses it. Well, I'd be sort of curious to see how Bolingbrook is using it. Are they bringing in, I mean, you've mentioned probably 4 or 5 different people, maybe even more than that would be inputting or pulling from different directions. I'm just not sure how it's all going to pull together. It just seems a little bit disjointed to me right now. I'm having trouble envisioning it.
Yeah, there would not be definitely 4 or 5 people entering. You know, I look at the clerk's office, the business liaison, and the planner.
Well, in
You
the
know,
accounting department, we're saying if we have billing, because you're saying it can do the towers and everything.
Well,
So, I
yeah,
mean,
and
there's
again, whether
definitely a lot of different hands in there, and
I think that's why Dan needs a few more months
Right.
to really look at.
yeah, we need to vet some things and to go visit Bolingbrook and see exactly.
that's what I'd be interested in, see how is it working in, whether it's Bolingbrook or some other similar community to us.
Right, I want to run through 2 or 3 examples, and I'll use Sokol again. You know, to be able to go through that whole process to see how that would be recorded. You know, and Sokol would still have a business license too, because they would be leasing agents over there, if it's on site, that is. So, but anyway, yes.
Dan,
definitely.
I'm sorry, you know, at some point, those are really called GIS systems, because you are taking a property and putting information about that property. Obviously, it's updated now. Lester, you know about GIS and all that, which is a little bit different. But I will tell you, there was a time when a lot of communities wanted to have a GIS system. So every parcel in town, they could know which building permits are. They could know if they had a meter replacement. My interest in, and we'll talk more, is how much of that do we really use? It's nice to say, oh, if somebody calls it Sokol property, but the applicability and how much we would use it is something we'll have to take a look at.
Yeah, and that's a very generic, you know, from a zoning standpoint, but the business standpoints, the websites, the contact person, the actual, I'll call it, you know, for residents to look up, the directories, I think.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to answer that now. It was just something that we can talk more about. So if the council wants that allocation.
I guess, you know, just to kind of circle back, you know, I heard words like efficiency, automated, workflow, centralized. I mean, at the end of the day, if this is going to make us more efficient, more productive, more streamlined, it would make sense to do the investment. But it sounds like there's a lot of questions left on the table as to, is it something we really need to expend the money on? But we won't have that answer until you do more research and talk to a community like Bolingbrook to say, how does this fit into your day-to-day operations? And you can equate that to how it would relate back to Darien. So, and is it worth the investment? Is it only going to is it going to help us, or is it going to upset the apple cart? Is it going to, you know, be counterproductive?
Correct. I don't want to come in here and all of a sudden, to Mike's point, that there's 4 or 5 people entering things in there, and now all of a sudden it becomes a total mess because we don't know who's controlling what.
Well, and there's sometimes
and where.
But you
software
will. But
programs
you-
have too many things in it too, like things we would never use.
But you will know who's using it because they have a user. So they have certain users have certain permissions. So you will know who's making changes and at what time. So it's all being logged, you know. So
Lester,
you
one
know.
question that I'm sure you know about much more than us. A lot of, you know, any computer software package or applications, many are really good, but something like this, without knowing more, seems like it's pretty monumental for us having a fairly small staff. Is that something, let's say the city council authorizes it, approves it in here and comes back and they want to do it. It can't be a 1-month project still. It's got to be, is this a 6-month overhaul of
For
things? Is it
implementation, you
12
mean?
months?
For
Yeah,
implementation, it just
When-
depends on the user.
us.
But yeah, it'd probably be a couple months to roll it out and and folks get comfortable with it. But typically, you know, when I see stuff like this, I say, hey, you want to get something that you can scale into, right? You want to get something that just works for right now, but something you can scale into. We plan to grow, right, as a city, so I think you want something that you can scale into and that's flexible and that can have a broad range of different features that you can.
In other words, you're not
right.
going to get every value out of this initially.
No,
You're going to
no.
grow into the.
No, start with you know permitting and licensing, and then you know see what you can do with the application. So
And I'm not disagreeing with you, but we'll bet a cup of coffee that'll be more than 2 months. Because it's just, I just see it as, because I've been through some of these overhauls.
Right.
And it's 2 months just to get acclimated. But
Well,
whatever
it,
it is,
it
just so we
depends
know
on
up
the
front.
it depends on the person, and this seems like a pretty fluid,
User-friendly?
user-friendly software where you know even someone my age or older can do it. Or-
Well, to your point, Brian. Brian, to your
Maybe in
point.
the group, Lester.
Mary, maybe if you want to get to the point of the
Yeah,
money, that's really
yeah.
where we're at.
I guess we just need to figure out where we just need to know, is there a consensus amongst the aldermen to put a placeholder in the budget? Am I okay saying a placeholder of $45,000?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Ted?
Yeah.
Lester?
Yes.
Tom Belzak?
Yes.
Eric? Yes. Mary? Yes. Okay.
45, Dan, is the placeholder?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman.
Anything else under the Community Development Department budget? Okay, so that's page 28. And that's a wrap on Community Development Department budget. Okay, we've been at it for about an hour and a half. Does anyone need a little break? 5 minutes? Okay, we'll reconvene in about 5 to 10 minutes. Municipal Services, Streets, and Engineering Budget. It's a big, thick one if you've got to print a copy. Page 40. Okay. And supporting page 41 with the detail. Any questions on salaries and overtime? Okay. Moving on to benefits.
Say, can we go back to page 40? I've got a couple things I wanted
Sure.
to bring up
Okay,
with
so
Brian.
summary page is 40?
Summary page, yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Mike, go ahead.
Okay, it's over there. Brian, maintenance vehicles projecting 83,000 versus 75 budgeted. We're already at 99,000 through February, so you may want to look at kicking that up.
Maybe actual shirt.
Got new vehicles.
And part of that is just some recent expenses, so that's why we didn't anticipate.
Well, yeah, again, it's a higher number. But then on office supplies, 3,400 budgeted, projecting 13,000, but we're only at 2,000 at the end of February. We're expecting a whole bunch of office supplies in the next month or two.
Let's see, I'm gonna say that's probably gonna be 1,300, Mike. I had to check that number. With that. Oh, and vehicle oil and gas, the last line on that one, projecting 85,000. I know it's gone up this year, but we're only at 46,000 through February 28th. About half of it. Which one was, I'm sorry, Mike?
Vehicle oil and gas,
Oh,
the
oil,
last
okay, yeah.
last line on that block. So that's all I have on that page, Mayor.
Okay. Anything else? You just made note, Brian?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So still using, 40 as our summary page, but diving into the summary, that's our overview page. Diving into the summary pages. Any questions on the detail in the accounts on page 41?
Yeah, me again.
Salaries, yes, Mike.
Oh, no, not on salaries. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, no, go,
Salaries.
anything,
Oh,
operating, which
okay.
account are you looking at?
I'm in operating.
Uh-huh.
The last item there, AED, equipment and training.
Yes.
We have 7,500 budgeted in that, Dan. We also had that budgeted last year. Did we get these AEDs, or are we still looking to get them, or?
We have some AEDs. I cannot tell you at this point what the total count is, but I know that the training on them and the actual, I'll call it refreshing of the units are all included with this. So that is an annual cost.
The 7,500, and it's also in the water fund, the $7,500.
Correct.
Also, so
Correct.
it's
There's two-
15,000 a year just for the training.
Yes, and I will double check that, but I know that I had reviewed that earlier in the year. I will double check that.
Mayor,
Yes.
on the City Hall balcony build-out for 95,000, are we using wood on this, or are we gonna get something stronger, or?
It's a combination of, the technology and the materials that'll be utilized today, it'll outlive the building
Oh,
itself.
really? Okay.
Yes.
That's all I need to know. Go.
Yes, unfortunately, when we looked at this, originally lumber prices weren't this high, material prices in general, so it really skyrocketed. It's a carryover from last year.
Okay, gotcha.
Any other questions on page 41? Okay, we'll move on to page 42, which is a continuation of maintenance and building.
I've got comment on this one, Mary.
Yes.
Just toward the top, we have a tire inflator in there, Dan, says 3,000, half to water. So it's got 1,500 in discretionary. Then if you look down below, under account 4225, has another tire inflator, 3,000, half to water for 1,500. So you have 3,000 here, and then if you notice in the water fund, if you look in the water fund, there's another $1,500 there. So there's 3 of them in there.
I'd have to double check the notes. I'm not sure what happened there exactly, but I know we have backup.
We have 2 in this account by itself. too, and right in the streets.
What number, Mike? I'm sorry.
Let's see, 4225 has 1,500, and then at the top account.
And then 4223.
4223. 4223 has 1,500 in the discretionary, and then 4225 has 1,500 in the.
We'll check. It's probably an error.
Maintenance. Yeah.
Something may be, something is an error. I know we have to back up to it, so I'm not sure if it just got entered twice or.
Yeah, you can
Anything
look at
else,
that.
Mike?
On this page?
Yes.
Yeah, just one other question. Vector rental on 4243. Why is that discretionary? That's something we use all the time, or every year anyway. Is it?
We've been using it in the water, Mike. I don't know that he's used it as much in the streets. If
but
that's what you're maybe thinking
Well,
or
it's
not.
question why it's discretionary as opposed to
Well,
under maintenance.
There's two parts to it. The maintenance are for emergencies, for example. What I want to
But
start
why is
doing.
it discretionary?
Discretionary is for additional cleaning to satisfy what's referred to as the MS4 stormwater ordinance, part of
And if you, I'm
stormwater.
sorry, really, I think if you didn't have that in the budget, how would you accomplish the task?
It would be rental back on, this is our guys doing it, whereas the other 12,500 is basically a company coming in on an emergency. So we have that 12,000 basically on an annual basis. Do we use it? Yes, no.
No, this is Vector rental.
Right. The Vector rental is something that we will be cleaning out, not for emergencies, but for storm sewer maintenance, for example, and part of the road program to also satisfy the MS4 storm water ordinance, if you want to say.
Did we have it this year, Dan?
No.
The budget, so it is a new.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why it's a discretionary.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is really something we need. I mean, so it's,
Correct. I mean,
How
at
did
the
you
end
do
of
it
the day.
last year, though?
I'm sorry?
saying. I'm confused at how you did it last year.
We
if you
haven't
didn't
been,
have it in the
we
budget.
haven't been doing it. We've been doing it more or less on an emergency basis.
Mike, it's a new, it's.
This is being proactive is what it is, and satisfying some of the requirements from the stormwater ordinance. Filtration, so on and so forth, sediments.
Most
looking at
times,
last
Mike,
year's budget,
New
Mike?
things, I'm sorry, many times new things we will put in discretionary, and maybe after the year we'll move them over to maintenance.
And the goal is for us to do this, the
yeah, no, it
departments.
just didn't seem like it was discretionary. That was really my only question, not the expense itself.
Okay. So just where it was placed. Okay. Any other questions on page 42? Okay, we'll move on to page 43. Continuation of supplies other, along with small tool equipment, training and education.
Okay, under small tools, we have new items. Under maintenance, mobile generator inverter and mobile pressure washer. Those are both new under maintenance.
Sorry, Mike, one more time on the accounts.
Account 4259, mobile generator inverter, mobile pressure washer. Small but new items.
Those are not replacing something we have, Dan?
Yeah, I know that the inverter is for the vehicles themselves. Basically, it's a power converters for laptops and or printers. On the superintendent's truck, the foreman's truck, concretes, liaison, whatever the case is. That's the inverters.
But is it new, Dan? I think Mike's asking discretion versus.
No, it's not.
Both
it's-
those items are new in the budget.
While they're new in the budget, they're basically replacements.
That's fine.
I do, the chair has would like a little bit more of an explanation, conversation, at the top, under holiday season lighting downtown corridor. And back up on that is on page 56, for $60,000, if that could be explained a little bit more.
Sure. If you look at the backup, the goal was, and again, I'll ask the mayor to chime in whenever the opportunity is. The clock tower, for example, 75th Street, is to really kind of take the holiday season and put it to a new level. Well, what does that mean? For example, we could do a 10-foot pre-lit Christmas tree. What does that cost? anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. That's one item, okay? And again, I know that some of those pictures or depictions of what we're looking at are in there. Also, maybe setting up scenes or scenery up and down 75th Street, for example, 75th Street and Plainfield Road. Whether it's decorating those trees that are currently in place and adding additional, I'll call them light fixtures or light displays, whether they're reindeer or more Santa driving a sleigh, for example. So all of those are at a cost. These are all commercial items. These aren't your typical residential items. The items are all bright. They have different types of lights. These things are warranted for a commercial application. And again, you know, let's say that we buy 10 trees, for example, the 9-footers, that's $5,000 a piece, you know, that's $50,000 right there. Whatever the items we're looking at, and we're gonna have a gentleman, I've reached out to a gentleman that does the Michigan, downtown, Michigan Avenue, does the lighting displays down there. He's willing to come in pro bono and work with us on that. So I want to earmark something in all these locations. It could be more, but again, our goal was, at least for the first year, to be able to provide something that would invigorate the downtown, I'll call it the center of town.
And the city would, I'm sorry.
The companies that have there are companies that have contacted us. And I went to Dan and I told Dan, I think we really need to do something to light up our central city. I said, our guys go up on the lift, on the cherry picker, they put the wreaths up, they do this and they do that. These companies come in, they install all this stuff. We're not just looking at, my vision is not just to have a tree for Halloween or Christmas. These guys will put lights up that they can go with a cellular phone and they could turn the lights on. For Halloween, they could be orange lights. For Christmas, they could be green and red. They build over years. They're saying you don't have to do everything in 1 year. What you can do is you could add certain types of lights 1 year, and the following year you put more money in your budget, you do something else. So my vision is just not holiday lights, but lights that would be throughout the year that you could utilize through your cell phone. And our guys don't put those up. We own them, we own the lights, but this company comes out and designs it. These companies come out and design, I don't know about this guy on Michigan Avenue, but the ones I've had contact with that I've given names to Dan for, they come out and they only give you what you want budgeted for that year, or what you want to add on for that year. And you could add on every year, but you could add on so that every season you can light up something. That's the goal. You know, you go through other cities, other communities, go out to Woodridge, go down Boughton Road, look at all the lights on the trees during the Christmas holidays. We don't do that. You know, why shouldn't we light up our central city more? So that was my goal. That's why I suggested this to him, and in conjunction with what I said, he went out and did additional research, and has the gentleman from Michigan. But my goal is to have our downtown area, our central city area, lit up more for different holidays, not just Christmas.
Is the electrical all pretty well available for that, Dan?
No, there's costs in here for electrical. Some of the electrical would have to be, and it's an inverter coming off of the existing light poles, where we would basically put an inverter in and be able to have outlets that would be able to serve these locations.
So how much of the 60 is actually for lighting that can be reused every year, or is this all installation cost?
No, this is all basically lighting. I think the electrical portion of it is very de minimis. I'm going to say no more than $5,000.
But this is reusable, I think
Yes.
that's Eric's
Yeah.
asking.
Yes.
So the bulk of it's reusable.
So it's not like a fee we have to pay $60,000 every year for a service.
No, it's the installation. And again, and that's something else we're exploring. Do we have the ability to put these items up and I won't say experience, but, just the ability to put these things in place in November, or, to the mayor's point for Halloween, for example, so whatever the case is.
Well, I know I have several neighbors that have gone with the permanent lights at their house.
Sure.
And it's all like controlled on an app, and you can change the colors. Like they had them at Christmas time because they're Christian, so they had, Christmas type colors, and now they're just like clear. So, it's like a little enhancement to their home. And they can change it for different holidays. They can flash it. They can make a move to music if you want something like that. But in your packet, you have like physical, besides just the lights, you've got physical items like trees and snowflakes and presents. And those would be items that the city would purchase, the city would install, and then the city would have to store.
Correct. Well, there's a combination of whether the city stores them, or if we have a vendor and out there puts them out, they have
And
vendor.
they take them back.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there are companies that put lights up that stay up, but you just don't turn them on.
That's like the one I was talking about,
Yeah.
yeah.
You just
yeah.
turn.
The one
don't
you
turn it-
use through your
Turn
app.
it.
But
Switch the
again,
color.
again, we're talking about year one. Year one would be the things that Dan's recommending, but in the following years, we may want to take a look at all the trees along 75th Street to have white lights on them or something like that.
Correct. Correct.
I mean,
So-
so don't think about this just as a one-year thing. Think about this as multi-years, changing it, growing it, making it look more,
So what's the useful life of these lights? 5 years?
they're LEDs.
I know, but what are you going to get out of them? Lucky to
The
get
average is, and again,
Year.
2,000 hour, no, it's more than 20,000 hours. So take the 20,000 hours. It's basically an average, is my understanding on LED. So, fed the math on that. Mike, you got your abacus?
Oh, I did 60,000.
He tuned you out already.
Scrooge over there.
Hey, Dan, do you happen to know, is the evergreen tree that is
Over
used
it
for
had
the
some good
actual
feedback,
Christmas
by the
tree,
way.
is that healthy?
Over it
That-
had some good feedback.
There's no problems with that
on
tree?
this.
The one
The
at
real, the live
one
tree
at-
at the Historical
Bowen
Society.
Brothers.
That tree,
It really is,
Good
the
feedback.
tree is not
it's not
the best
healthy.
tree to have
Yeah.
Yeah.
lighting on. I mean, it's
Yeah.
very sparse. It's getting sparser.
Yeah.
Trying to put lights on there. Yeah, lights are on there. Does it look like anything? Beauty's in the eyes of the beholder.
John Carr will tell you that within a couple of years, that tree's gonna have to come down.
Sure it is.
Probably has a disease to it or it's thinning out.
It's thinning out very much so. And
Yeah.
again,
It's just that you have a group of people at the Historical Society who don't want to see that, lose that tree, but
Oh,
they're
of
gonna
course
lose
not.
that tree.
they really were satisfying the need is what we're doing there.
Well, it's a good location too, because it's of that corner.
Again, and to your point, we could take that location and purchase a tree per se and put it by the clock tower. That's something more, have Santa come out there as part of the marketing with business liaison, for example, and, have a hot cocoa night or something like that. But anyway, just some thought processes.
Lou's gonna dress as Santa?
Did I say that? Yeah.
More discussion on the holiday lighting and decorative
Is there any
displays.
issues with
Digitize
the
the
fact that
entire
it's a
Creek
DuPage
Creek
thoroughfare?
Amazon
If we wanted to run lights from, or I don't even know if it's feasible to run from one side of the street to across the street like that.
Across the street, I don't think that would allow that. We probably have to take a look at that. If we were to do that, we have to submit some type of plan for
I don't
sure.
even know if the lights are lined up in a way that would make it work either.
You're looking at doing it down the parkway, down the median.
Down the
trees,
medians, yeah, but not over 75th.
Right, I was
yeah.
thinking
Yeah.
of Bedford Falls.
I would love, yeah, I would
Vermont does
entertain
that,
that.
but it's like there's
Yeah, we
downtown
look at
area.
Bedford Falls.
I would entertain that,
There we
I
go.
just don't know if DuPage has to be involved in it.
Right, definitely.
Okay.
Any other questions, discussion on this item? Are people in support of this?
Yes?
Ted, Lester? Tom,
This
Eric?
is more, just to reiterate, this is more of a one-time front-up deal for wiring for this.
It's going to be an annual.
Well, it depends how this, how the city wants to look at it. If they want to do an enhancement, will next year's enhancement be 50,000 again? Will it be 10,000? I think the end result is what we see the first year, and based on, the opinions, to say, hey, you know what, we should spice it up a little more, or not. I mean, take Bolingbrook, for example. You come off of, Bolingbrook's a big issue tonight, boy. But if you come off of I-55 and Route 53, they've got the I-55 corridor lit up over there, for example, and down Route 53, and I don't know what other roadways they have, but I know I've frequented that. So, how much do we really want to enhance?
When would these have to be ordered then?
Oh, probably June, July.
All right.
We don't do enough of this. This is my opinion, and I really like to push this because, I hear criticism that we're not keeping up with other communities. Other communities light up their trees along their
Like
main
Woodridge.
thoroughfares. They have holiday light shows. They have this, they have that we don't have that. I think that this is a meeting some of that need. I think we could make 75th and Cass look a lot nicer with some of these decorations. I'm not saying this year would be the only year. Maybe next year we wouldn't do anything, but maybe the year after that we would enhance it a little bit more. I just like to see us create more of a spirit of the holidays along 75th and Cass. I mean, if you guys don't want it, you want to spend $60,000, that's fine. It's up to you. I told this to my wife tonight, and she looked at it and she goes, they're not going to say yes to that. They're all going to say $60,000 is a waste of money. She says, well, how are you going to combat that? And I said, I'm going to tell them it's something I think we really should have. And I really do think we should have this. This is something that I really feel is going to dress up the city during the holiday season. But it's your choice, guys.
I'll be honest with you. You're right. It's the 60,000, but you drive down Westmont, and some of the most beautiful things you get to see.
Woodridge.
Yeah.
I mean, it really looks gorgeous. So, I'm willing to try it.
And there's no water features.
Stop it.
Thank
Throw my
God.
ruler at you.
Forget it then.
Frozen water features.
Dan, I don't
Don't
Or
place
digital
ice
signage.
fish,
bring
Forget
this
it.
up now, but as we're talking about it, sometimes I would just hate to decorate the first year and everybody be disappointed because it's not enough. Is this going to be okay?
Yeah.
Or should it really be a little more? I don't know.
My
Now
thought-
that we're thinking about 60, I don't even know if
Doesn't
we'll
go
get.
far.
I just don't want everybody to be disappointed that it's not
Yeah.
enough either.
My
'cause that's
thought
a
process was to make sure that whatever quadrants we're looking at,
Yeah, what
to
are
make
we
sure they
looking
make
at
a
here?
statement. I mean, my thought wouldn't be to put a tree here and say, okay, we got a tree there, we put a decoration here. I want to put some thought process. I mean, I like being artistic
Yeah.
and having flavor to something that's going to, pronounce something is the bottom line.
So the first year, it might be closer to Cass and 75th.
Right.
And you and I talked, maybe at some point it is further down Plainfield and some other areas. But this is really to take more of maybe even a smaller area and make it look really nice.
Yes.
That's what you're saying,
Yes,
Right. Instead of, you're going to try to concentrate it versus thin it out.
correct.
And then if the community feels like it, well, if we as representative get positive feedback and that was well received, then perhaps build on that moving forward.
Yes.
Anyone else?
Ted, you were a yes? I'm sorry, I didn't make notes. Were you a
Yeah.
yes?
He said it's
Yeah.
just worth trying, yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Lester, yes. Tom Belzak?
Yes.
Yes. Eric?
Yes.
Yes. And I'm a yes. Okay. Well,
Tell
thank
your
you.
wife she's wrong.
I was going to say, tell me.
Yeah, there you go. Kathy.
I'm going to tell her when I go home.
That's the
Text
park.
her right
now,
That's the
Joe,
park
that's a big
district.
win.
Right?
Okay.
They said yes to the decoration.
Oh, she's going to be like, don't ever discount them.
We should.
You know why she said that? Because she's the frugal one. She wouldn't spend $60,000.
We should get the park district to go in on this.
There you go. Maybe we get all right, get the park district to decorate the park.
with Rachel Blonsky about decorating the park.
That's a good idea. There we go.
Okay, so any other questions on page 43, further down?
Dan, the flashing Speed limit lights. Are there any other areas that we think we need these? I mean, I do know they work, because they work on me.
Sure. I think, I agree with you 100%.
Manning.
You know, aside of, you know, again, let's not include 67th Street.
I'm not saying we
at
do
this-
it this year, I'm just saying, is there a list of other places where we think we might want to do this?
79th Street is the ones I've targeted for
Right,
this year.
Right, I saw that.
You know, so I think that's a good target. There's been thoughts of Oldfield Road. I'm not seeing a problem on Oldfield Road.
We have the ones on, there's two.
Oh, we got the, yeah, they're a little bit older, but they still work.
Oh, they do. Well, and I've gotten quite a few inquiries about that because that is a little bit of a speed trap. And people are like, is it taking my picture? I'm like, yeah, and smile. I'm like, oh my gosh, have you taken a good look at the technology? It's just like, it's literally like this tiny little thing. I'm like, oh yeah, it's taking your picture and it's sending it directly to me, showing me that you've been speeding. I just had a good laugh at that.
At the same time, I want to clarify,
That's what we
these
need.
cameras do not take pictures,
I know.
okay? So
That's
I
what I was saying.
Yeah, I just want
but
to make sure.
It is because it's gotten people. I've at least, and like Tom said, I'm a habitual little. You come off of Lamont Road and you're like hitting it, and then you're like lift it up, and it starts flashing at you because you're, you know, for us, it's if you hit over 29, it's gonna. I find them to be extremely effective.
And
Well,
they do
maybe we
work.
need to put on there, on each of those signs, pictures taken. And maybe that would slow people down. Seriously.
Save a lot of money.
I'm not sure if that's legal.
that's
to
not
be
legal.
I don't
honest
think
with
it's
you.
legal, but
If I put it, if a resident happened to put that sign up on there, you'll leave it up there, right?
No.
Oh,
Dan, another part of this is obviously, we're talking about how it affects or slows down
Yeah.
drivers, but it's data collection too, that's.
Correct.
for-
It does,
for you,
yeah.
it's critical.
They do have the ability to take data on, you know, for speeding, you know, additional times of enforcement, for example,
Yeah.
through the speeding. So they're, you know, some of the applications are just really phenomenal in their technology.
any other questions on that? Mike, did you have something else on that page?
On that page, yeah, the CDL training, Class B to A, $22,000, something new. Could you explain that a
Right.
little bit?
In a nutshell, what it is the trucks that are currently coming in are a little bit heavier. While they're a little bit heavier, many of the trucks that once the weight of a load is put on there, whether it's a water tanker, whether it's a salt spreader, whether it's just excavation spoils, that truck now becomes additional weight. The weight in the truck becomes additional. With that said, it now kicks up the weight to a new classification for CDL drivers. So, you know, in the event that, and I'll keep it simple here, if we were involved in a accident per se, and that vehicle was overweight, not overweight, but based on the license that the driver has, it's not the proper classification.
That makes sense.
So is there, are there training classes or what's
Correct.
involved in this?
Basically, what it is all the guys have to, they'll be attending the union has a site where we're gonna be signing up all the guys to go through the classes, and I believe that the state either comes in and gives them the exams, or they have to go to the facility, closest facility, state of Illinois driver's license, and update their licenses.
And you're comfortable with this amount in terms of doing all of that?
No, yeah, unfortunately, there's no other choice. You know, we've been trying to broach this also through our Public Works group, and really, everyone's in the same situation. Yeah, it's costly. It's a one, you know, unfortunately, the guys have had Class Bs, now they're Class As.
Fine, and then there's one other new item, air cards, jetpacks, miscellaneous
Uh-oh,
food card
those sound like fun.
subscriptions. $13,000, this new item.
I'm sorry, Mike, which item are you on?
4271 under utilities, air cards, jetpacks, miscellaneous food card subscriptions.
The
It's
air
another-
cards, yeah, the air cards are part of the SIM cards are for the tablets that they have for the GIS locating, part of the GIS system is what it is.
This is something new that we're adding to that
It
system. or-
was new from, I believe, this year's budget. This is now a reoccurring cost.
We updated during the year, Dan, as old, I think the laptops or computers, we updated. So we did incur some of this expense this year.
Yeah, there's a combination, that's part of it too, but for example, the water valve boxes are now being put on GIS or water valves, so the guys go out there and, okay, coordinates here, the positioning is 30 feet here, blah, 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 whatever the case is. So there's a couple of those laptops out in the field now as well. And then, I'm sorry, your other question, Mike, was on the jetpacks?
No, that's the same thing.
It's the same line.
Oh, okay, all right.
Anything else, Mike? No? Okay. Well, then we'll move on to page 44, which is contractual services continued, account 30-4350. Forestry.
Dan, I'm sorry, the draft budget didn't have
Yes.
your bid numbers. Is that what you're gonna go over?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
So if we could take that entire section of 4350 up to where it's we control riprap areas, which is about 7-8 lines down.
Yes.
We had a contract with a company, and those prices were phenomenal. Last year, earlier this year, we requested of that company to extend our unit pricing because we had an additional year or 2 years with them. Unfortunately, they were bought out. They were bought out by the competition. So with the competition buying them out, True Green in this case, it's the only real game in town. So I tried to negotiate with True Green. They came back originally with a cost of a little bit more than $50,000. I could not justify that because basically it was double what the contract was previously. And I told them we're going back out to rebid. So basically we went out to rebid, and the price came back as $76,756. And I've got a breakdown, so I'm not sure how we want to do this, if we want to go back through each item, and I can give you the pricing, or we could just do a summary. But it is approximately 76, it's about a $45,000 increase.
Well, can't we
on
go
the
back to True
fertilization.
Green for the 50,000, or is that?
Yeah, they're not going to do that now. They tried to, I tried to negotiate with them, and to go back now, it's more or less face and face. I could try it again.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, but I don't see
Blame
it.
it on me.
And then I'd be more than happy to do that.
I'll accept that.
But I know I went back and forth with them a couple times on that 50, and they came down, and still I couldn't justify it that it doubled.
Tell them you did your due diligence, or didn't.
Yep.
Blame it on me.
All right. I mean, yeah, we'll try again, and I gave them a preliminary call, but they didn't really return that call.
Well, and this is something we have to do, so.
Yeah, unless we start cutting the services on fertilization, I think that the fertilization that we have implemented really has shown, especially, 75th Street, some of the detention areas, some of you may recall that we used to get lots of complaints on the areas on detention and or some of our right-of-ways where we had the dandelions, crabgrasses, and it just really wasn't aesthetically pleasing. So now we've really ramped that up, and I think it looks very well.
Actually, compared to about 10, 15 years ago, our right-of-ways and everything, our medians look beautiful compared to what they used to look like. We had a lot of complaints back then with the weeds, and they really looked bad. I mean, you talk about improvement, it's 100% improved.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Especially in the entrance signs. It's no good having entrance signs if they're gonna not be.
That's exactly it. If you're not going to
Like this.
manicure your entrance signs, what does that tell you about your housekeeping?
Yeah.
Any other questions with Dan on this, other than go get it. Go get the, go back to True Green.
Yeah, we'll try. But yeah,
In that same account, though, we've got $20,000 plant contingency, City Hall. We had that last year, too.
Correct.
Is that something we didn't do it? Or
we didn't do it,
so it's a
and again, I
carryover?
was not very happy with the outcome, or we were not able to orchestrate it properly. So this year
We did do it? and
we
we're
did
not
not.
happy with it, or
We did
do
not.
it?
No.
Okay.
So this year we've kind of took a different approach to it, and we've got an individual, one of our arborists. Now that we have two city arborists on staff, we gave one of them the responsibility to consult with Hinsdale Nurseries, other people, and come up with a game plan to make sure that, these things are,
Carryover.
yes.
Mike, one point on carryover. A lot of these I marked carryover. If the city council approves something this year by ordinance, I had a carryover.
I understand.
Just so everybody
But the reason that
understands.
it's in here again is because it wasn't done last year.
Yes.
So that was a simple answer. Yes, Mike.
Any other questions on page 44? Any other items?
On the
Dan,
streetlights, I got one.
Okay.
I know what it means, but maybe for the group, what you mean by entrance sign lighting.
Yes, the entrance sign lighting, again, is for all the entrance signs, 75th Street, Cass Avenue, Lamont Road, Plainfield, so on and so forth. Our goal is to utilize, we're trying to find solar lighting. We've looked at a couple of them over the last couple of years, and really they do no justice to the actual signs themselves. So this year what we're looking at is some different technology, whether it's solar and or electric, to be able to put, some lighting onto the entranceway signs. That's the bottom line goal. We have some electric already in there, meaning some infrastructure. So it's a matter of tapping a power source, whether that's through ComEd and or an inverter through our light poles, and also application back to DuPage County for permission.
You do have a couple of them though, Dan, where there's not a pole or anything close to it.
Correct. In that case, we'll have to run that, have to have a tap into a transformer, nearby transformer.
Any further questions on that item?
Well, I have a question regarding the 75th Street median and entrance signs plantings. There's 8 entrance signs, right?
Correct.
Okay, so it says $3,000 per location. It comes out to $24,000 rather than 40.
That's, that was from, I believe, last year. Yeah, that cost has definitely gone up. Brian and I were just discussing that 2 weeks
so
ago. It's not.
The cost under the account name part is, you see what I'm talking?
40,
On the
Tom, you're saying the backup is low?
The backup says,
40.
entrance signs planting 3,000 K per location. If there's 8 locations, it's not $40,000.
24.
Right.
Now it's saying between 5 and 10,000.
Well, no, that's on the,
That's on page 72.
But on page 82 is where the,
on page
Entrance
72, the
sign
first
lighting.
line says 5 and 10. That's the median locations. On the second line down, it
It
says
says
entrance
3K.
sign
You're right.
plantings.
Okay, right, Tom.
And so that's what I was just trying to figure out where that number came from.
Let me double check that, because I know
I mean,
72.
3,000 per location for entrance signs actually sounds like a lot for plantings.
'Cause I know the one figure we had originally was low, and I want to make sure that's. And so the medians,
Medians are 5
5 to 10, right?
And the entrance
The
was 3.
signs, 3, that should be, yeah, that's not right. The sign plantings, 3, so 40 by, it's about 5,000. Should be 5,000
That's, yeah, right.
per, not 3. Yeah, because many of the plantings are either gone or need to be refurbished. That's all that's left on a lot of them is the tall grasses. That's the extent of it, whereas they had a little more prior, when we
These are
first
perennials.
implemented. I want to say yes. I'm not sure perennial or annual. Annual. Yeah, I'm not sure which ones you leave in the ground.
Yeah, perennials.
Perennials come back every year.
Got it. Thank you. Not a
Annuals
green
need to be
thumb, so.
replaced annually. Any more questions, Tom, on that?
No, I just wanted to see, the numbers didn't make sense, so.
Okay.
Yeah, that was from last year, I believe, with that 3K.
I know Eric has questions on the streetlight.
Yeah, and then we talked about this before, Dan, but how many new streetlights now are we budgeting for?
Well, we're still going to go with the 4, and I think we put an additional request in on contingency for, hold on. Light pole repairs, street light pole requests, 4,000, then we got 15,000. And what had happened is
Yeah.
Alderman Gustafson had requested that we put in additional lights in, as he feels that due to increased activities, that it may be an opportunity for residents to say, hey, we want to have street lights in there.
Yeah, we had that one very recent one, and then at the safety meeting in March, I've got a resident that's going to be there pushing other residents to get a additional street light. So she's on a rampage right now to get more. So
And I thought that contingency, though, does cover specific requests, though, also? It's not like a contingency.
Well, basically what we're doing, no, it's not a contingency either. A, we're leaving it at 4,000. B, we're putting in an additional 15,000, which would be 19,000, and it would be dedicated to the entire city, not just towards one ward
Yeah.
per se.
Right, I thought
It's-
Eric had specific requests, so we would up it.
No,
since
we don't
do
have,
we,
we
d-
do
we,
not
we
have.
got one in
Just one, okay.
so far, but like I said, I'm really anticipating the safety meeting, we're going to get more out of that meeting.
But at the same time, I want to clarify that how the streetlight program works. The streetlight program works through resident initiation.
Yep.
So, for example, if there's a corner that a resident wants a light at, that resident should be part of that corner. That corner means maybe 4 to 6 houses.
Yep.
And the petitioner of that corner will go back to their neighbors and ask for a signature in the affirmative. If one of those residents says no to the streetlights, we're not putting it in there. And again, that's just due to, some residents have bought homes, bought properties in these rural areas, and they do not want to have streetlights. Same philosophy as with sidewalks.
Yeah,
So
the-
again, I just want to
yeah.
take the moments and
Yeah, the
explain.
one we just recently had, we actually had to move it down the street a little bit because I had helped to get the signatures, and I actually talked to one individual for a half hour to try to convince him, and he wouldn't budge. So, but then we moved it down the block a little bit, redid it, and then got the approvals on it. But there are, and I drove through. It's in the Farmingdale Village area. There's a few spots in there that are pretty dark. So I'm anticipating, we potentially would get more. So how much are they per light pole?
About 4,000, 5,000, depends how
Okay.
much cable
Okay.
we have to run.
So we'll have a total of 19. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of give you an alert on that because there may be more coming. But I could be wrong.
Any other questions on streetlights, mosquito abatement, street sweeping? Drainage
I'm
projects.
sorry, Chairman, with the street sweeping, is everybody satisfied with the street sweeping that we currently have? I want to say we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sweepings. Nobody wants to increase anything on the street sweeping. Everybody's satisfied with it, correct?
My only concern was last year, it seemed like they did it too early before the last one. There were a lot of leaves that seemed to come like later in November. It seemed like they did it like in October as opposed to November when there were still a lot of leaves on the trees.
No, we did have them out several times. That fall always becomes a problem, depending on the species of the trees. Some will come down earlier, some will come down later. There's no rhyme or reason, but I know that the allocated hours for it seems to work out on an annual basis that we have averaged over the last several years. So, and we used to have an additional sweeping right around July 4th. We don't have that anymore, but I just wanted to broach that with the city council to see if there was any interest in increasing the street sweeping services. If not, this will be status quo.
Do we still use the same company every year?
The contract this year is with LRS. I believe it's the first year or second. This will be the second year coming out with LRS.
Okay.
You know, I just had one request from a resident in Farmingdale Village to do a sweeping. I went over there, and unfortunately, you know, it's a home where you could tell they never removed any leaves. So there are a ton of leaves in the gutter. And I don't know if it makes sense to move the May one up earlier and do it in April rather than wait till May to get some of the stuff cleared out. I'm just afraid with the rain in the spring and stuff and the gutters and stuff and the getting clogged up.
Well, two things today. You know, we do have an adopt an inlet program, which again, several people have, hopped on that program, and we are very proactive during and or after storms to make sure that the inlets are clean. You know, if there's curb and gutters that are, you know, I'll call it saturated with leaves due to, you know, some mishap, whatever the case is, they're few and far between. So, you know, I really don't see any advantage to putting it into April versus May, especially with the, you know, April showers that we get. April showers, May flowers.
Well,
you know,
that's,
we
I'm
clean
just
Sometimes we get
concerned
snow
that
in April.
I'm just concerned that the gutters get, you know, they'll
I have
clog
seen
the sewers up.
walking my dog. I've seen our municipal services guys out there and looking at the inlets and clearing them even themselves. You know, we're doing routes, so.
Yep.
But we don't do any kind of spot cleanups.
Sure. Well, it depends. I mean, if there's, let's say there was a, you know, a major or significant rain event and it piled up, you know, all these leaves in front of your house for whatever reason, yeah, we will come out there and pick it up. I mean, you know, it just becomes a hazard otherwise.
Let me give you the couple homes that were really
Yeah, no, we'll address that. Yeah.
All right.
Dan, if we're talking April really, or right now, May 11th to the 19th, what is really the difference though? Is May, there's still really not much, right? That's why you don't have much for
Leaves.
that
I
sweep.
think it's all, you know, April sometimes, you know, have we seen it where we've gone out salting? So, you know, some of the residue from the roadways could still be in place, whereas May is a good opportunity to really clean
Got
everything
it.
per
Yeah,
se.
thanks.
And when do the leaves actually really completely come down? Is this October 26th to the 16th, a little early? We should
This says
do a little
October
later?
26th to November 16th.
Right.
Right, yeah, we base it on hours. So basically what we do is, let's take Alderman Belzak's subdivision. For some reason, you know, he has a mix where certain blocks will fall earlier
Yeah.
than others. So we'll designate a sweep for those blocks. You know, it might be 10 hours. We have, in that particular case, we have a bank of hours that we'll use throughout the town for that fall application.
And when is the fall leaf program, the leaf free pickup stop?
So it's
First
up
week in
until the landfills close, I think in second week in
November?
December, if I'm not
December, yeah.
mistaken.
See, the first week of December, I think.
Yeah,
That's
it's,
not
it's
just-
pretty much all of November.
Yeah, I just wonder if maybe that could be a little bit, couple weeks later. I just want to see, get all the leaves picked up at the end of the year.
Well, I'm not sure what you're asking. If residents will be picking them up?
Does this have to be scheduled, I assume, way out in advance, and we can't
us?
change it? Yeah,
Well,
Who's actually
what are you
doing the-
referring to? The street sweeping or the leaf?
street sweeping.
Oh, we change it. You know, and it's not
If we
the same-
notice there's still a lot of leaves on the trees, can we hold back on
Yeah.
this then?
Yeah, well, yeah, we've done that. That's why
Okay.
we have a bank of hours and the contract set up
Okay.
with a range.
Okay,
It's not, you know, it's per hour. It's not a lump sum.
okay.
Okay.
All right,
But we'd still have the opportunity to rake our own leaves because there's no cost until the first week of December. So the people just need to really get out there and do it.
Yeah, that's the
Right,
challenge
Dan?
is there are a
To
lot of
keep
people
those
out there
sewers
that
clear.
cannot rake their own
Right.
leaves.
Well.
They're not physically able to, so they
Well,
stay.
I could say the same thing, but I get out there and it may take me
know.
hours, a little bit at a time. You just do it.
Time to call in the Cub Scouts.
There you go.
Drainage
Yeah.
projects. Anybody for drainage projects? Questions on that?
I have to toot the horn here because I'm so proud of where we've been. After 15 years, you know, we finally, the department accomplished what we set out for 15 years ago.
Bravo.
Yep.
Round of applause.
Yep.
That's a long time.
Ted, do you remember when
Oh.
when we asked him years ago?
I still have the nightmares about Gale Avenue.
We walked that street together and talked to the residents. I mean, I remember asking Dan, when's this gonna take us to? And he said, probably till 2022. And 2022, we were done.
I still remember on Gale Avenue, this one house had this thorn tree that was right on like the front area, right next to the street.
To the culvert, yeah.
Oh man. Anyway,
Little
that
PTSD from that, huh? There.
oh,
I mean, you know what? It really is an accomplishment.
Well, just the home plus the curb appeal in Alderman Vaughn's ward, Alderman Shower.
Good, nice.
Let's see, it's just even yours, Chairwoman Sullivan. It's just unbelievable.
By the high school, Dan, was
Oh.
really.
I think the high school
my
area
favorite.
is
That's kinda
Hinsdale
my
South.
favorite, because you have really, it's so noticeable, and you have some creek around, but still the ditch work really helped.
Yeah.
and those pipes that went diagonally through one. That's pretty amazing how that one was pulled off. So
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and I'm not
it's-
even a resident, but like I've had, over the last 15 years, students at the high school, my children, and the way that neighborhood has changed and how it's looked and getting to know people who live there, how it's been a game
I
changer.
remember when there were two houses across the street from where the one baseball field is that flooded every year. And we went in with the county and we bought those homes.
Yep.
We tore those homes down and we created what's
More-
there now.
More than two, I think it was close to four or five.
Yeah, and
Congratulations,
the thing about it
Iris.
is we had help with the county. We got the basins built and we redirected everything towards the basins.
I still last thing I still think about the Nantucket bridge collapse and what the nightmare we had to go through that.
Keep in mind, we were 1 year behind, and then we were ready to do it, and Mother Nature beat us to the punch.
God, we had the emergency fund.
And on top of it, didn't we have to go through the Army Corps of Engineers to get approval on that too?
It was a long, probably about 4, 5, 6 month process with permitting.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, thank you, Dan.
Oh,
We'll move on to
Sparky.
page 45, contractual services continued. Anything on page 45, capital purchases? Debt retirement, empty
Go
there.
back to rear
Yes.
yard drainage.
Yes, going back to page 44. Okay.
Dan, is that your current list of all the properties?
Excuse me.
And have any of them agreed already, or I saw letters out, but
Yeah, we have an inventory. That inventory is tentative with yeses. All right, so the costs have all been bona fide as well, and the contracts or the quotes have also been approved preliminarily by the city council for anticipation of a May inclusion of this budget. So the answer is yes.
is there any other backlog at all, or
No,
or people
no.
that have had interest but haven't gotten the yeses together?
There's just no other, there was no backlog, and again, it seems like that, for whatever reason, April, May, people come out of woodwork.
It rains.
Right, and.
How about after today?
And I see these situations, as you recall, I came back to the city council last year and asked for an additional, I believe it was 50, 65,000, whatever the case was, and out of that 65,000, I think we only really used maybe 50,000. Just, again, the program is really a great program. I can't brag enough about it because the differences that we've made is just, phenomenal.
Okay. Okay.
In regard to the next one too, the inlet box grate.
Okay.
Is that
That's
the
the
one
one
on
over in the
Portsmouth?
park.
Yeah.
Portsmouth.
Yeah, that was.
What's the fence installation? Because it doesn't say in the
It's
memo.
it's a carryover from last year, and we just did not have the opportunity to complete that. Basically, what it is as part of the Sawmill Creek tributary, and it takes water coming down off of 75th Street and then Tuckett. So when all this water comes down, you've got
Right.
these rear yards that are the condos and/or homes and/or some forested areas, native areas that collect all this debris. And during a surcharge, there's a group of grates, probably as wide as, from here to that wall, and about 6 to 10 feet deep in width, that collect all this water and go underneath. The problem is that when the surge comes in there, it gets clogged with leaves, sticks, branches, and then the roadway will overflow. So the goal was to be able to modify these grates and to put in these channel poles that would catch the debris prior to it getting onto the grates and being able to travel around the debris or the poles when it gets caught up.
And these grates allow more debris to go through.
No, they're more efficient, number one, and they're being modified to let a little more water into them, but at the same time, from a mechanical standpoint, they would be maintained a lot easier than they are now, because they're about probably 800, 900 pound grates a piece. I think there's maybe 7 or 5, I can't recall.
Any other questions, Tom?
Nope.
Okay. Then we'll go back to page 45. Any other questions on capital purchases?
Yeah, on the truck 112 for 150, why are we under discretion on that, just out of curiosity?
112?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
All the vehicles, Ted,
Oh.
it's not a carryover, right, Dan? We typically put those in discretion.
Right. Yeah, that 112.
Well, I think because the other ones were carry. Okay, got it.
Carryovers.
Carryovers. Okay.
Yeah, non-carryovers.
This is the new
Again,
one.
it comes back to if we have a chance and it's part of the, with all the,
I tell you, in my career, I have never seen a situation like this. We're looking at another truck right now that we just got a hold of. And I'm hopefully, if it's still available for next city council meeting, we might have to have the same protocol. And it just happened, supposedly it's coming on lot. Somebody forgone, has forgone it. So I don't have all the details yet, but it's just, unbelievable.
supply
how-
chain issues is unreal in this.
How do our 9 tons, our big plow trucks look? I mean, we got 2 of them on here that we're waiting to replace, right? Or
Oh.
that we're waiting to get.
Yeah, we're still waiting almost a year and a half on one, where we haven't let the other one go into auction. It's been costing us some money for maintenance. Luckily, we've had a, light year on snow. So that has really, I think, saved us, especially with the one truck. We're at their mercy, and the pricing still might be, at the end of the day, when we get it, it still might be $2,000-3,000 more than we anticipated.
Yeah, I know we're gonna try to get into capital tonight, but I do have one question, because it's really pretty cool to see Public Works use technology. I mean, it's growing in technology and helping you guys, and you have the road weather information system. If you could just take a minute, because
Oh,
that's
sure.
pretty cool.
Yeah, one of more, 2 things we've recently done is, obviously, we use a lot of additives now. Those additives are biodegradable, user-friendly, nature-friendly. With that said, these sensors now, we have road sensors that are positioned at strategic locations that look at the pavement and record the temperature of the pavement. I believe I forgot how many there were, 4 or 5. And I know we're going to be getting more. But they look at the road at the conditions of the road. So the road may be wet, the temperature of the road may be 40 degrees in your ward, Lester. In Tom's ward, it might be still 50 degrees, whatever the case is. So all that data goes back to the route drivers. And, okay, this one uses salt with additional calcium, liquid calcium or liquid geomelt. So really, it's been enhanced. It's a science at this point. What I'm noticing is some salt reduction too. This year, for example, while it was still lighter on salt, I'm looking at probably a 1,000-ton salt deduction from previous years.
Because of the technology.
Yes, and the enhancements, we go out and prior to a storm, we'll put down chemical, and I hate to refer to it as chemical because it is all user-friendly and eco-friendly, so, but it works. It works. It's really become a science, and it's not dominoes anymore, if you want to say, or checkers.
Okay.
So, what actually are these units that are going to be?
The units are mounted on sign poles, for example.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Tom wanted to have a visualization in
Yeah,
his
there's
head.
no pictures here.
Nope.
Yeah. In some case, let's see. There's, we're also using the weather service now too, and that's phenomenal in itself. Brian and I had a long discussion on that, but
How
the
many-
weather service that we have is not where you're getting from WGN per se. It's really pinpoint, spot on, and that helps too.
How many units?
That's just one, actually, that's one service. That's separate and aside from that, but I just wanted to mention that.
Oh, the little weather, the 7 units the budget was calling for.
Oh, yeah, as far as the sensors go, correct.
Yeah.
Where is the one unit you have installed?
I believe it was on Bailey, mid-block Bailey somewhere.
And have you had good results with that?
Yes. They actually vetted it through other municipalities that have utilized this, including Burr Ridge has a similar 2 programs, if you want to say.
Great. Any other questions
Yeah.
on capital purchases? Yes,
Yeah.
Ted.
I just want to go back to this truck situation because it's something I brought up before. I'm going to keep bringing it up. I mean, we have a protocol that, for all intents and purposes, you get a truck, we need it. We got lucky a couple months ago, and we brought it. The dealership was nice enough to hold it for a week until we got up and we passed it at city council, and we're good to go. My concern is that if we get a truck that comes on the lot and they basically says we can hold it for 2 days, and our city council's not for 2 weeks, what do we do in that situation? Because this is an extreme situation of supply right now. Trying
What
to
you
get
could
some
do
of
is
this-
hold a special meeting with 48 hours' notice. That's what we could do legally by the Open Meetings Act.
Okay. Because I'm going to tell you right now, obviously you could never do a purchase without our approval, but there's got to be some.
There's ways you can do approvals in advance on contingency.
Okay.
Something a little similar is we go to bid periodically on electric rates for our pumping stations and things. Council passes an ordinance, allows me to sign that contract based on the bids that will be received after the council meeting.
Okay.
Because the bids are good one day, and so you have to approve them that date.
Okay.
There's ways we
Right.
could do that. It's in my opinion not the best way. But I think the best way on something this, you're talking 200,000. I would hate to have just Dan and I go buy that on pre-approval. It would be 48 hours
We wouldn't want to
notice.
put that pressure on you guys. I'm just saying that there's just got to
It's such a
be,
special meeting.
and that's, we're just going to, I'm going to tell you right now, if it's got to be done that way, we'll do it. Because that's one of my biggest concerns with all these trucks. If they break down and we can't get them replaced, then what?
Well, the lag time's significant now.
Exactly. So,
There's no end in sight at this point. I mean,
I know.
the new trucks aren't the Peterbilt, for example. We have no idea what their pricing is. We're doing our best guesstimate on pricing, and with the new Tier 4 or 5 EPA. You know, we're looking at going back to regular gasoline versus diesel because of all these particulate matters and EPA regulations on the diesel. Our costs for maintenance if it's gone up as astronomical. I mean, I think Mike said it earlier. You know, we're at 90,000, I think, on maintenance on vehicles. Every time we bring one of these bigger trucks in there, it's, you know, something that we can't do in house. It's $5,000 to $8,000. So anyway,
Okay. Is there any more questions
And
on
the-
the street and engineering budget? Last call.
I got on the garage floor, is that where we're at here now, capital purchases?
Sure, yes.
It shows it 100,000. Now it shows the 200K, and then what's this 2H2?
water department
Half
gets half,
goes
yes.
to water, okay.
Yeah.
So how important, I mean, this is $200,000. How important is this?
Well,
I mean, it's just a lot of money for, put a sealer.
it's really a
Coat.
safety feature of what it boils down to. Obviously, you know, these trucks throughout the, when they're parked and when they're being washed, they do have oils on the vehicles. The floors become slippery. The current coating that we have on there right now, I believe we did it about 5 years ago. And it was not really a commercial application. I believe the cost that we had invested 5 years ago or so was approximately $50,000. You know, you drop a plow blade on there, boom, it cracks, the actual coating. Whereas, you know, and there's a lot of steel that's being rubbed in welding, that's being rubbed against this floor, and this floor is a commercial floor, non-slip. So again, it's got abrasives in there. If you were to go down there now and take a look at the condition of the floor, you would have never thought that it was really completed 5 years ago. So you got parts of the floor that are coming up. It becomes a trips hazard is what it's, a slips and falls hazard, really.
You gotta get the old floor up as well?
Yes, this is the grinding, it's a grinding again, and, you know, we would probably do it in 2 processes because we just can't pick up, you know, and leave inventory in there.
I know, I had this done in my garage at home, and I know it's not cheap to do.
Correct, but this is a commercial application, you
Yeah.
know, we know we're staying there for a while, so this is along the lines of remodeling.
Where's Joe Kenny? I miss you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe, appreciate it.
So how long should this new floor last then?
Oh, at least, yeah, no. I mean, really, from what I've understood, is 12 to 15 years.
Okay.
So there's really, you know, a night and day difference in the commercial application
That's another argument about. not
or
building
industrial
new-
application.
You got a 20 to
Balance
15
plan on
year
the floor. Okay.
Well, last question, I hope, regarding capital purchases. The trucks that you have listed and the equipment you have listed for 2025, to follow up on what Ted was talking about before, is can we get prices on those now or ballpark figures as to whether we, how important is truck 111 to have? I mean, if we carry it over for next year, are we going to be able to get it next year? And that's the problem that we've had. Is there any sense in trying to purchase more this year?
And I don't have a good answer to that question. I mean, you know, the simple answer is yes, I'll take all the trucks I can get. But at the same time, you know, we don't even have pricing that we can forecast for even today. The pricing that we got in there for the next truck, we got a guesstimate to it. You know, Peterbilt, for example, has no pricing out. Ford, certain vehicles on Ford has no pricing out there yet. They haven't even been released, the actual models themselves. So it's really a guessing game. I mean, we're continuously looking to see what opportunities there are, but even some of our consortiums through our co-ops, they don't have pricing for them. So, you know, I hate to put in fictitious figures that I can't prove or disprove, but we keep that opportunity open, whereas if we feel that a truck needs to be purchased sooner than later, that Chris and the rest of the department understand that we will take that consideration and bring it to council for further consideration.
Right, so, but based on how it's been valued now, or its lifespan, truck 111 and truck 600 should last for another 2 years. or
Correct.
a year and a half.
Yes, and especially with this year's winter, we haven't had they haven't been workhorses as in the past, if you want to say.
In equipment, are we having the same delays on like 305 and 309?
Yes, and some of them are not as bad as the bigger ones.
So right now, you don't think any of those need to get pressed
No,
forward?
no. I know we broach that every 3 to 6 months on pricing, availability, inventory. So we're constantly watching that.
So, last question on truck
I've
110.
heard that before.
Enough, just for me.
I mean it. It's the last question. I got a ruler. I'm going to channel the old nuns.
How long have we been waiting now for the FYE 23 truck that we proved before? Is it almost 2 years?
And I don't have a timeline with me, but one of them is going to be close to 2 years. I mean, I just did a schedule, and I'd have to pull it up, so it might take me a couple minutes, but I can provide that information quickly in summary next meeting, because I put all that out there.
Okay. Last call for streets and engineering budget. Okay, page 45. So that is a wrap there.
I'm sorry, Chairwoman.
Yeah.
Can I have another opportunity to bring another topic up?
Do you want to finish capital tonight, or do you want to not finish capital?
It'll take me
Right
5
now,
minutes.
I don't know how long this might take, or.
Okay, is this relating to streets and engineering budget?
It's actually to the capital purchases.
Yep.
So to the capital projects fund?
No.
No, you're talking about this budget.
Right, 304815.
Okay, okay.
One of the goals, as some of you may know, I'm on a consortium with the EV, electric vehicle consortium. So it's about, I believe it's 15 or so, and Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 15 communities that have been selected.
16 communities that have been chosen to be part of cohort number 1.
Right, so the bottom line is that we're going to be setting the policy for electric vehicles. And that basically means zoning, building. One of the couple things we're working on, the first one is having EV chargers at the city hall here. And that basically means 2 EV chargers that will be what's referred to as level 3 or fast charge components. That will be outsourced. That's going to hopefully be coming back to the committee and city council in a month or so. That'll be a no cost, so that's a neutral cost to the city. The second thing, we're part of the greenest, the GRC or the Green GCR or GRC, Green Compact.
Green Compact.
Yes, and that basically means that being part of that is that we're promoting, things like EVs, solar system, solar powered items, so on and so forth. So one of the thoughts that I had, and Brian and I had a great discussion on this, was to introduce 2 EV administrative vehicles. In this particular case, they were going to be the Cherokees, basically for the 4-wheel drive ability and the opportunity to take a look at to see where these vehicles are at and how they would work. This is a hybrid vehicle, which would be electric and gasoline at the same time. There's all these rumors out there or whatever facts. What if we have no electricity for a month? What happens then? What happens if the temperatures fall below 30 and we have a polar vortex? Will these batteries take the charge? So my thought on this was, since we're part of this consortium cohorts, and to be, proactive, my goal was to put 2 vehicles into the budget, these hybrid vehicles. The costs of these are still kind of up there. They're $75,000 per vehicle. So this goal was to have 2 administrative vehicles in the fleet that we would be able to take the opportunity to basically demonstrate, promote, and show that, we're part of this. So, and these vehicles, again, four-wheel drive, for the simple reason that we, have picked up employees in the past in inclement weather, bad rain events, an emergency, tornado, for example, that we have the ability to be able to transport and or get to a scene if required for administration. So, again, for consideration, I was looking at two $75,000 vehicles.
And counterpoint
Hybrid.
to that is they're listed in the budget, but for the following year, because the two vehicles Dan's looking to replace are not ready to be replaced on our rating system. So I just kicked that over one more year.
What would these be if they weren't electronic or electric vehicles, EVs?
I wouldn't even be asking for them at this point. I would wait till the life of the current vehicles would be expired, come back in with a conventional gasoline.
Part of the reason we're in the EV readiness program is to model the behavior for our business community. We're looking to have our business community install charging stations within their shopping centers. Dan's worked with John Manos. John Manos is considering that. You'll notice that in some locations, like for instance, you go to Kohl's Shopping Center, Kohl's has them. Those are owned by the shopping center. There are other shopping centers where you'll see them, and they're privately owned, and they're utilized by people that pay for it. So we would want to have these charging stations in our shopping centers to make our shopping centers more attractive to people who have electric vehicles. The models he's talking about are hybrid/electric vehicles. We're not ready to go totally electric for these two cars that we're looking at. We're also working to get bronze.
Correct. Through the cohort, one of the goals is to be able to achieve a bronze level, if not a silver level, for recognition, for a city that's ready for EV in general.
Dan attends, and they're quite frequent, every couple of weeks. It's a Zoom conference with Cheryl Scott and with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus that I think you had one today.
Yes.
Where it's a learning situation, it's a training session. So, we're really at the forefront of this in terms of communities within DuPage County, or actually within the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, which is 275 communities. We were one of 16 that were selected for this.
The charging stations would be outside City Hall, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So the question that I have for you, do we have to buy two or can we buy one?
One is fine, and the goal was that the charging station that is applicable for this type of vehicle is basically at home.
Okay.
So the truck or the car, whatever, will be charged up in the evening or at the end of the day. If needed for additional charging, we can put it through I'll call it an extension cord, where we don't have to tie up the ones that I'm promoting here for patrons that come and visit the city hall. And the ones that are here are fast charge. So a typical charge would be approximately 30 to 40 minutes for a resident. So if they want to do a quick fill, I'll say, or put a couple dollars worth of electric in there, that they, go in there. There's an app they'll be able to pay through, and maybe they get a 15, 20-minute charge.
Oh, so they're gonna have to pay for these
Correct.
charges here at City Hall?
Correct.
Oh,
And I haven't figured out, the cost is relatively inexpensive. I want to say it's about 11, and don't quote me, and it's 11 cents per kilowatt hour. I don't know what that gets you yet. So.
well, because I have a hybrid, and so I've plugged in at places where you have to pay to charge, and then there's other places you can plug in for free. So I just assumed when we were installing charging stations at City Hall that they would be free of charge.
And there's right, and while there's still a cost, that's something that I'm also entertaining as an option. What is that cost? Because part of this whole thing is that municipalities don't pay a charge for the city hall, for example. So there's no charge to us. in reality, that charge is still brought to the residents as a whole. So somebody's paying for it. So I've been working.
Well, don't usually spend much time here, though. Residents, when they come here, it's usually pretty quick in and out.
It's about, right, 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes.
I just don't know, like, if it would be advantageous for them to, unless they were coming here intentionally to charge their car. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they were just coming in to drop something off or have a quick conversation, would it make sense for them to,
There'd be nothing to stop them from doing that, though.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Hey, dear, pick me up in the car. We'll pick that one up later.
That's true, and again, that's where, you know, again, police thinks that we're going to a whole nother
Right.
level, but, you know, I mean, the average person, is my understanding through some of our meetings that we had, you know, 15 to 20 minutes on a fast charge level 3 gets you, I don't know, half a tank, I'll say.
Well, most places have signs that limit the amount of time you can
Right.
keep your car parked there.
You know, the other thing that you have to consider is our police vehicles, what do they have, 2 more years, Brian?
Yep.
The second, yeah.
2 more years. We have to begin to look at the possibility of having hybrids for our police vehicles.
Some of the admin cars are coming this year, though.
Right. I mean,
Oh, when we say hybrid, are they electric, or is it electric and gasoline?
Gas.
no, the ones that, every community that's looking to replace their vehicles is looking at a hybrid, not a hybrid/electric.
Okay.
They're looking at hybrids because police vehicles are out on the road 12 hours or so. It's a different type of, it's hard driving. It isn't
Yep.
easier. And you just can't count on a car being out there 12 hours on an electric charge.
And that's somewhat of the, you know, awareness of this. How does it perform? What happens? Because eventually, you know, the goal is to move towards the police department vehicles to have this electric setup.
Right.
You know, what is that? Is that 5 years? Is that 2 years? That technology is not 100% yet,
Right.
definitely not.
Argonne National Lab's doing a lot of battery development. And they're actually looking at battery development to fly airplanes. But they are very, they're
It's
very,
a bigger, I saw that, I was there too.
So let's stay on topic with the cars. Let's try to, you guys, we're getting late, so we're gonna try to bring it back to.
Who's the other guy did?
I was there, I was on
Hold
Zoom.
on. Who's
Yeah.
the oldest here?
The one thing, concern I have is, we talked about this, Dan, you mentioned that, you know, these are for a bad rain event. I know down, when they had the hurricane down in Florida, a lot of the electric vehicles that were submerged 2-3 days later caught fire because the battery started. We already had one fire. I'd be concerned if we're using these vehicles and we're running it through higher water and we have this issue. I don't know if they fixed that problem. And I heard there were some of the people down there that the insurance didn't even cover the damage from the fire from the batteries.
And
Having a problem going back to the manufacturer and having a big issue.
I think that's always, you know, will something catch on fire? I mean, yes, we went through that example at Public Works recently.
Right.
My understanding is that the technology to the previous cycle or the previous batteries has gotten a lot better. The fire departments don't, you know, talking to Tri-State, the fire department does not have that concern as they did a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
2 years ago.
But this was just now, I don't know how old some of those cars were, electric ones were, that were in Florida.
Right.
You know, I tried to Google and get that information, but it's hard to get that.
Depends who the manufacturer was, where the batteries came from. and
Right.
We agree,
Oh, yeah.
we agree.
So Dan,
100%.
real quickly, we're talking, no matter what, we're gonna put chargers at City Hall, correct? Okay. And anything that we use as a city vehicle, obviously, we're gonna be able to plug in whenever we need to, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right. If we're gonna go this route, and I'll tell you, a guinea pig for one vehicle, I got no problems with, okay? I don't know if it's gonna go to the bronze or the silver, but to have two vehicles right now with this, I don't know. One I'd be all right with, because we don't know the technology on these things. And Eric, he hit it right on the head. What happens if, you know, any issues with it?
Right,
You know,
well-
and I don't, you know, And like I said, when it comes to these vehicles, trying to get any type of vehicles right now.
And we don't need them now.
The thing is,
they're not
when
for
would we
another year.
need
Why-
like a
why
new
do it
vehicle?
now?
A year from now, 2 years
Yeah, it's
from
about
now?
a year and a half, 2 years from now, so.
So we're ahead of the
still-
game.
We're kind of in that time frame for at least the one, I mean,
Hey, guys, can we focus then on, this was gonna be a 5-minute discussion. Can we
whatever
focus
it
on
takes.
capital projects and get that done
We
tonight?
should conclude that, though. if
Yes.
there's-
Is there anything else you need to add, Dad?
No.
Dan, on that? Okay.
so just.
I'm gonna
asking
call you
for
Dad. I was with my dad today, but I
Yeah,
meant Dan.
consider, yeah, so just for that consideration,
So
thank
are we-
you.
What are we doing with the electric vehicles on that request?
When are we gonna get the chargers in?
I'm hoping 3 to 5 months, but I'm not worried about the charges for something like this. I mean, if the vehicle itself, we wouldn't get for probably 5 or 6 months if it was.
So
if-
Dan's asked for 2 cars this year. I put him in the following year. And Ted, you're saying buy one now. So we just have to get that
Either
decision.
one now or 6 months from now, but I wouldn't buy it until we basically have the chargers out front. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's all basically gonna be the same timing.
You know,
Lester, what's your thought?
Toyota Prius, no.
Your, 0 cars, 1 car, 2 car?
I'd say one. I'll go with one.
Okay. Tom Belzak?
I think I'm leaning the one.
Yeah.
One car.
Eric?
0.
0? I'm leaning, like, wait till we need our cars to be replaced. I think we're a little, especially since we don't even have the charging stations. And then is the city paying to put the charger in the employee's house? Or
And
do you
the
want me to send Mark
electricity.
Sullivan over there because he put ours in? Okay?
I'm not
Okay.
concerned about that.
And the electricity.
Okay. Okay, so I think we don't have 2 other people here, but,
You're at 3-2 right now.
okay.
Not a council majority, though. Dan, there.
I
Well,
think-
I vote in case of a tie, so I'd say one car. But you have 3-2. Maybe you want to wait till next week and get the opinion of the other 2 aldermen.
I think we should.
So.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to wrap up municipal services, streets, and engineering budget for tonight. I'm sensing from the mayor that he would like us to spend a few minutes on capital projects, even though I know we are past the expiration time of 9:30. Is everyone on board with that, okay? We'll try to get through that quickly. I promise we will not be here past 10 o'clock. Okay? Okay, so moving on to capital projects, page 140.
Couple
Okay, so we got Mike,
comments.
Treasurer Corn.
The first item under capital ditch drainage projects, projecting at 1,101,000. We're already 1,104,000, so just need to refine that number a little bit, Brian. And the sidewalk replacement, these are probably fairly solid numbers anyway. You have it at 480, we're at 485, so we'll pick up about $10,000 in costs there. That's it.
Okay, that's it for page 40. 140, Mike? Okay. Okay, moving on to page 141. Any questions on the stormwater ditch projects, sidewalk replacements, crack and seal, curb and gutter?
Yeah, I had a question, Dan. Weren't we supposed to get a grant on the Aylesworth and on the Regency Grove?
Yes, sir, we do. We have both grants in play, 70 for the one for Aylesworth. I plan on hopefully, weather pending, completing this year. It's a 50/50 grant. Regency Grove is also a 50/50 grant, and that's in here, obviously, and I'm
So
trying
the
to.
real numbers would be half the numbers.
Well, there's a revenue, Mike, for that.
Okay,
I'm just
okay.
looking at what
Okay.
they've got the full
You
expense.
do
and
have it in the revenue side already?
Yes, but
Okay.
I don't know exactly if I included yet, I might not have included Regency Grove, because I don't think we have an intergovernmental agreement yet on that, Dan.
It just got approved on the IGA.
The council approved it?
It came back from I'd have to double check.
Yeah, I don't
Brian.
think we approved it yet, Mike, but let me check those numbers.
On the road program for the 1.89, is that still 5 miles?
Yeah, right, it's approximately just a little more, but at the same time, I think the driving cost of it this year is Darien Club Drive. While we did, last round, we did some base repair there. It needs additional base repair or additional refortification. I'm very happy with the longevity of the road, but we just need to do a little more treatment to make it that next step a little better.
Just amazing the prices in the last 5 years.
Yeah, and still, luckily we went out early to bid.
Yeah, so, okay.
Dan, I'm sorry, for grants in that fund, I have Aylesworth for 90,000. The Willowbrook contribution is 100,000, and then we still have a state grant through Senator Curran for 150. So if I'm missing one there, I'll have to add it.
Yeah, it's Regency Grove then, and again, Aylesworth has been reduced just to the,
Well, I'll get that from you, but that's the only one I need.
What's the 67th Street traffic signal?
I'm like, hold on a minute. Is it that late? Have I nodded off?
How did that get in there?
Lester, you have gotten a lot. I think I'm the only one, maybe Tom Balzac, that has not teased you about the streetlight.
After all those jobs in shower. Well, still on that signal though, Dan, you've got 375 and the agenda memo shows 280.
Brooks still in on that?
The agenda memo shows almost 100 less. That we
and
just
I'd
did
have to
in-
look back at the agenda memo to make sure that there wasn't additional items in there. You know,
Could
maybe.
that be the Willowbrook 100, Dan, too?
It
That's what
could,
I
it
have
could
in
be. I
mind.
have to look at the agenda memo to make sure it's apples for apples, because I know there's some other costs like sidewalks, striping, that are not part of the actual signal, but part of the overall project. Because you tell them you're basing it on an award, correct, Mike?
I'm sorry?
You're basing your number on an award?
Well, no, the agenda memo in December, we approved 280,000 for that, and then here you got 375 in the budget.
Correct, and I just gotta double check it, I mean, just to make sure what the ingredients are of that.
And Willowbrook's giving us 100K on that, right?
Up to 20,
5% or something?
I forget, if it was 20% or a max
Up to.
dollar and.
But I don't think
or-
that was on top of the 280. I think it was supposed to come out of the 280. Yeah,
No,
so now we're
top.
saying the 280's now become 375?
Yeah, it was that.
No, it's,
That's with the sidewalks.
hang
It's
on.
page
Which backup you got on that?
It's page 165 is the agenda memo from December 19th, 2022.
Yeah, let me take a look at that real quick. Yeah, so it's 264 plus the actual 15,000. So 264, 274, 280. So 280,000. Utility conflicts in the amount of, okay, so that's, yeah, because there's some sidewalk in here too, Mike, the crosswalks and the actual striping. That needs to be included in here. And they're not in this agenda memo, but again, that's the overall project. This is specific to,
That's not gonna be 90,000, is it?
no, probably about 25,
I would
Okay,
just
so
think
we're
the-
30,000. I
so
mean,
the backup would support the amount you're looking for
75.
there. That's all I would have thought.
yeah, total, I mean, I understand what you're saying.
You're asking for way too much.
It's only 100 grand.
No, that's-
Moving
it's a
on.
carryover. Really, and bottom line is it's a carryover. It's a carryover from this year, and yes, it could be adjusted, whatever the adjustment is, whether it's 20,000, 25. I'll have to take a look at the project allocation cost that I have on a separate sheet.
Yeah, no need to answer that now, Dan. You gotta take some time. Look at that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Whatever
I've
it
got
takes,
that on
Dan.
my revisit list,
thanks, Mike.
Whatever it takes.
okay? In addition, anything else under capital projects?
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention, yesterday, I was in downtown, Downers Grove, and walking along the sidewalk, I noticed the grinding. And they had the grind, every couple blocks, it was the grinding. And I looked at that and I told the guys that I was with, I said, this is like the crack seal of sidewalks.
That's-
It's the preventative measure where you're not lifting out the whole sidewalk, you're grinding it down, and you're gonna get extra years out of that sidewalk. So I really think this is a good, I wanted to mention that for the council, I think this is a good plan.
I've seen it in a lot of places, yeah. It does
Yeah.
make sense.
Very write down the end of my-
Anything you want to add, Dan, to the capital projects fund discussion?
No.
And you'll come back to us on the 67th Street light.
Yes, I'll just double check the
Okay,
figures, make
great.
sure what I have is correct.
Anyone else have any questions on this?
Looks good.
Okay, I'm not going to ask again. Okay, well, I think we did very well tonight. We got through everything but the police department budget and the water and water depreciation fund and our other funds, which we will all take care of next week. A couple items we'll be revisiting is the budget for training elected officials, programs kind of thing. Maybe a little bit more info and discussion on the electric cars, hybrid. Hopefully we'll have a full house next week, and the 67th Street light. Okay?
Thanks,
We have not
everybody.
gotten the MFT budget yet, correct, Ron?
No, so we still have to get the MFT budget in preparation for next week's discussion. So we will be meeting